So over the next couple of hours, you are going to witness some of the finest esports racing in the world. This is the McLaren Shadow Project. I'm Nikki Shields, and today we'll be putting 8 drivers to the test as they battle it out on these racing sleds. Now, only 3 can go through to January's final, where they'll be in with a chance to be crowned McLaren's Shadow Driver. We're also here at the world-famous and utterly amazing McLaren Technology Centre, which is, of course, the home of racing, technology, and lots of ridiculously incredible cars. Now, the winner of the Shadow Project will become part of McLaren's esports team, alongside Enzo Benito, Bono Ruiz, and Ollie Pakala. And I think you'll probably agree with me, this really is a life-changing opportunity. Last year's winner, Rudy van Buren, is now an official McLaren F1 simulator test driver. How cool is that? Now, before we get started with today's races, let's take a look at what McLaren's Shadow Project semi-finals are all about. Welcome to the McLaren Shadow Project, an esports racing tournament to uncover the world's best video game racer. Right, let's break this down a bit. 8 drivers have qualified through international competitions held by Forza, Real Racing 3 and Logitech. However, to really test these gamers, they'll play on all 5 of the racing games featured in the McLaren Shadow Tournament. Today, they'll be racing in Real Racing 3, Project Cars 2, Forza Motorsport 7, iRacing, and rFactor 2. As they compete across these 5 games, points will be awarded on the leaderboard, with the combined points across the 5 races ultimately deciding the driver's final position. The top player from each qualifying group will then move on to the final in January. Now you understand the scoring, let's meet the players. From Brazil, Igor Fraga. From Japan, Kazuki Cho. From Spain, Christian Kvetniewski. From Denmark, Henrik Drew. From Sweden, Lasse Wiman. From France, Grégoire Fauré. From Italy, Numa Natali. And from Spain, Miguel Ballester. Now, this is an international competition with international racers. So we've brought together a top international team to guide you through it. We're starting right here for the World Tour here in the UK. And joining us is Theo Thomas, aka YouTube superstar Black Panther. I'm not going to ask you where you got that name from, but how's it going, Theo?
It's going great. I'm really feeling the energy here tonight.
It is pretty intense out there, I would say. The
Definitely.
Competition is serious, but you've been hanging out with some of the guys from the McLaren Shadow Project. How's that been going?
Amazing. To see the people that are racing hard out there as people is pretty crazy.
And you've also been involved a little bit on the go-karting track, I believe. How was that?
Yeah, I didn't do so great, but seeing them perform again gave me some tips and tricks for next time.
Okay, so room for improvement, but you've learned something. Well, that's important. And you're also doing a bit of an Instagram takeover.
Yes,
Tell me,
I am.
what are you doing?
So on the McLaren social medias, I'm going to be basically keeping people up to date on what's going on with the event.
Okay, excellent. Well, Black Panther, we look forward to catching up with you later. And remember, you guys watching at home, you can get involved too by commenting. You can get involved with chats, questions, but make sure you use the hashtag McLaren Shadow. So do join us for the conversation. Tell us what you think of the races. Tell us what you think of the competition. So, rounding off the team and commentating all the action and all the way from Hague in Holland, we have Ali Tak. And from New York City in the good old US of A, it's Alex Golden Boy Mendez. Boys, how are you both?
Thanks, Nikki. We are so ready to go for today. The drivers are ready. This is going to be a good one. Ali, what do you think of today's lineup?
It's an incredible lineup of drivers. What amazing teams we have, and individuals as well. Some qualifying from some games, some from others. It's going to be hot competition, though.
That's right. It is going to be awesome to see how it all pans out. It looks like we have a lot of great players, some great tracks, some great games. It's going to be pretty dope. Let's send it over there to Nikki, who's actually in the back right now. What you got for me, Nikki?
am. I'm here in race control, which, well, actually, no one really gets to normally come behind the scenes here. But it's really the headquarters of the adjudication team and the heart of the competition. So if there's any controversy, any naughty rule breaking or technical issues, well then this is the place to be. Now we'll be checking in with these guys throughout the course of the competition, throughout the course of the races to see how they're all doing. But I'm now joined by lead adjudicator Toby Trett, whose job it is to really oversee the fair play and ultimately rule on any controversy. Toby, you've got a pretty important job to play today. No pressure.
I do indeed. So from back here, we're basically overwatching all of the players' screens, so we can see exactly what they see, so we can make a note of any foul play we see at all. We've also got replay angles from the outside of the car over there in the corner, which I'll be monitoring. So as soon as an incident may occur, we can pick that up and make an instant decision. Okay,
so what kind of maneuvers, shall we call them, would you say will be disallowed?
So dive bombing is quite a common occurrence in sim racing, where someone will plant their car up the inside of the corner, absolutely where it does not belong, and force the other racer off the track. Apart from that, rubbing is racing, but unfortunately too much contact, and that's where we then step in and adjudicate.
Okay, and how excited are you about getting this competition up and running?
Oh, I cannot wait. I've seen all the chaps out there practicing, and we've got some pretty good talent here today, so I just want to get them out there on the track.
Okay, so remember boys, no dive bombing. Now on that note, it's time to get the semi-finals underway, and the very first game we've lined up is iRacing. Now, whilst the drivers finish their qualifier, let's take a little look at what they're going to be facing. So it is now time to get the semi-finals underway. The pressure is building. The tension back here has seriously mounted, and we've got the first game lined up. It's iRacing, and whilst the drivers finish off their qualifying, let's take a look at what they'll be facing.
For the first race in the McLaren Shadow Project, our drivers will be taking on the Circuit of the Americas, a 3.41-mile racetrack set just outside Austin, Texas. Playing on iRacing, our gamers will complete 10 laps in the McLaren MP12C GT3 from a rolling start. As well as a lot of elevation changes, this counterclockwise circuit includes a mighty 133-foot hill on the first of its 20 turns. There's some great overtaking opportunities for our racers too, especially on turn 1 and turn 12. That's right. So it's going to go down, Ali. I'm really excited. iRacing, I mean, this is kind of like the granddaddy, you know, of the sim racing world, right? I guess it's like a right way to put it.
It's a pretty active granddad. I mean, I'm a bit scared of it, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
Probably not too frightened of my own granddaddy, though.
What's this guy talking about? Okay, so just to kind of give you an update on you know, we show the drivers. We talked about them a little bit, right? But let's also get to know them a bit more. There's some great talent out here on the field. Some are well known within the racing community, some not so well known, but a lot of opportunity here to represent the McLaren esports team, Ali.
And it's a broad spectrum as well. I mean, the massive prize everyone's fighting for here is to join the McLaren esports team. So there are some folks who are a little bit maybe more unknown than others, but there are some big names coming out here to try and get their fingers into that pie.
Yeah, I mean, you heard before, right? Like what it means for a lot of the other competitors or for the other people that have joined the McLaren team in the past, like, and where really the skies are the limit when, you know, you join this prestigious organization. We had a chance to walk around this building, and it is insane, man. Just the cars that are scattered about, it's ridiculous. You were losing your mind. I
didn't know what to do. There's just cars here from every
hands.
era of McLaren.
He was walking around like this, and his hands were up, and he was like, "What? Am I allowed to touch things?" You know, I just touched everything. I caution to the wind. McLaren legally couldn't kick me out because I have to be here.
That's right.
But once the show's done, they're giving me the boot because I went rogue. I tried to get into.
I'm telling you, McLaren, you guys should just search Alex Mendez a little bit before he leaves the property.
Some car keys.
Yeah,
you know, that's what I'm saying. So here's the thing: we talked about a lot of the competitors. We talked about, you know, what we're going to be seeing here today as far as the competition is concerned. But let's actually learn about one competitor in particular. It's Henrik, who's here and representing on the Real Racing 3 side. Let's go ahead and take a look.
My name is Henrik Drew. I live in Kolding, Denmark, and I qualified via Real Racing 3. Unlike the others that are here, I'm a doctor by day and a racer by night. I'm very proud to be here with McLaren, who has a big and proud heritage within the field of motorsports. To see some of the best virtual racers in the world battling here at McLaren is amazing. It's been very difficult for me to prepare myself completely for this competition this year, due to the fact I have hard working hours and I have a family, 2 small children, so I might be the big underdog, but I'll certainly do my best.
The family man from Denmark looking to really change his life, change his family's life with this opportunity at the McLaren Shadow Project. I mean, this kind of what Nikki said earlier, right? This is a life-changing experience for all of these competitors, but for that winner, that is just groundbreaking.
It's incredibly, life-changing, as you say. I mean, Henrik Drew, someone who came in actually to the World's Fastest Gamer competition last year. Mm-hmm. He's been to the McLaren site before to try and get this prize. He's back maybe for a second bite of that apple. And it's uncommon, really, for people to get that second chance. I think he's going to be seizing it with both hands. Yeah,
but he came in through the Real Racing 3 side, which is a mobile game. It is substantially different. We're going to see it later on in the show. Can Henrik kind of deal with the insanity of sim racing? And the first game is the craziest of them all, in my opinion. It's iRacing, and what a way to start it off. And well, we have a little more information on iRacing, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, iRacing, it's just kind of the most simmy game out there, if you like. It's a game which really takes everything into account. Takes in the flex in the tire walls, the suspension, the torsion of the anti-roll bars. So much data going in and changing the way the car drives.
Yeah, and Ali, he's got to regroup. He's got to regroup. It's getting hot in here. Okay, it's getting hot in here. The action's going to be hot and heavy. I'm excited for it. We're going to be jumping into this one. The drivers, as a matter of fact, have just done their qualifications in just a little bit, and we kind of talked about some of the other competitors here as well. We talked about Henrik, but I also want to learn more about some of the other racers here. And one particular driver is Numa, who came in from the Forza side. So let's learn a little bit more about this competitor.
I'm Numa Natali, I'm from Tuscany. I qualified for the McLaren Shadow Project on a Spa Challenge on Forza Motorsport 7. I've played Forza Motorsport since the first one because of the cars and the realism. I've been in McLaren Technology Center. I was amazed by the McLaren F1, one of the best cars ever made. Also by the old structure that was huge and incredible. It's such beautiful how sim racing is connected to the real world racing with esports. To become a member of the McLaren Shadow Project team will be huge.
Indeed, it will be huge for any of these competitors. We keep kind of like driving on the gravitas of it all, right?
Sure.
And I know everyone wants to get into the action just a little bit. And I didn't realize, I'm looking at myself, boy, I am just all manners of verklempt right now. It is steamy.
All manners of come again?
Verklempt, it's like when you just overcome with emotion.
Okay.
And also extreme body heat. I'm sorry. I'm going to be in the YouTube chat in a little bit. I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone make fun of me in the YouTube chat. It's going to be great. Get in there.
Speaking of that, though, and before we move past Numa Natali, I want to say for all the Forza drivers out there, all people from that community, this guy's known as TX3 Tiltanium on Forza, so that's somebody a lot of people know. He's out there, a driver who's really interesting to look at on the road.
Yeah, that's very true. And we're going to see how he's going to fare in iRacing. It is now time to start our first race of the day here for the McLaren Shadow Project. Let's see how this one pans out. As we started off with Henrik, we heard from him earlier today, the family man, the doctor by day, driver by night. And we're already seeing some competitors veer off onto the side there. A little dangerous, Ali.
Yeah, cold tires getting the better of a few of those mid to rear pack runners as they head through this first sector for the first time. It's a decelerating set of apexes, and you can see all the drivers treading very, very carefully indeed in this big old MP4 12C GT3.
is a big boy indeed. And there is Cho, our competitor, Kazuki Cho from Japan. A lot of talent on him, really looking forward. A relative unknown coming into this competition. But you can tell he means serious business and everyone needs to watch out. This guy right here though, Igor, he is without a doubt, if you look at the pool of talent, this is certainly going to be the guy that you kind of have to tip the favor to just a tad because of the clout that he brings to this competition.
What a serious driver Igor Fraga is. Incredible talent. Amazing to see him out here fighting for a space in the McLaren esports team. He's a Formula 3 champion from Brazil last year in 2017. That's real world driving. And this year been racing in US F2000. Huge amount of experience on those young shoulders.
Think about what it will mean for him to be able to represent the McLaren esports team and the future beyond that. As we cycle through a lot of the drivers here, here's Christian, another formidable threat in this competition coming from the Logitech G side. He qualified through that one, and you got to watch out, right? They're all going to be right on each other as much as possible.
For sure. I mean, you know, Christian Kvitnewski, that driver, very fast indeed. And, you know, a long-time rival, I would say, of this guy we're looking at right here, Miguel Ballesta, currently leading this race, but getting a lot of pressure from those drivers behind. Ballesta, also an experienced real-world racer and somebody who is, again, a huge amount of talent behind the wheel. We've got such a talented field. I'm saying the same things about everyone.
But you know what? You're so right, Ali. And just speaking of the Miguel, Igor, Christian, that battle that's going to be ensuing, I mean, you could probably even throw Cho in there as well. There's just been a lot of talk about, you know, as we've been here, we've been seeing these players practice and get warmed up and do their qualifications, and it really has just been a toss-up between those four, and even Henrik, right? He's kind of been a formidable force in this competition too. So there's just a lot of activity here, and you really just do not know what to expect at this point in time. But the action is continuing. Miguel still maintaining that lead for the time being as we jump on board with Kazuki Cho.
Yeah, there he is. Little bit of oversteer there through the kink. Making me nervous, Kazuki. But yeah, into the hairpin. Managed to keep that car in one line on the track. And away we go down the back straight. So not too bad there. Maybe a position just slipping through his fingers, though.
And there was a bit of an overtake there, so get some more info on that one. I'm curious to know who that driver is. But you have Christian here, and there's oh boy, this is going to be really close now. Christian sitting in the, what is this, going to be the second position, I believe. He is, I think that is Miguel that is going to be right in front of him currently.
This is the battle for the lead. Christian Kvitnewski against Miguel Ballesta, that number 6 car against the number 1 in second. These two have been fighting it out in practice, as you say, and now bringing it into the real event. They've brought their rivalry along with them. Here we go. It's the start of this race. So neither of these drivers right now, it would bequeath neither of them to battle too hard.
Well, and the other thing too, right, is that these two drivers are competing against each other currently, yes. But let's not forget that there's that mini competition, within the broader spectrum of it, right? Christian is on the Logitech side. So he is trying to be the top gunner in the Logitech area. Meanwhile, you have Miguel, who's coming from the Forza side, and his only competition currently is Numa, who is, if I'm looking, is nowhere really near him to try and challenge. So there's no reason for you to go to kind of be risky on this, unless you just want to have that top crown to say, I am the best at iRacing.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, these two have been around each other for a very long time indeed. It doesn't, you're right, they're not in the same race as each other. Neither of them need to do this battle, but I think there'll always be that feeling with every racer. You know, you switch them on and they want to win. They don't want to make compromises. They don't want to get used to seeing a car in front of them taking the checkered flag. Every single driver out there, if they want to get into the McLaren esports team, needs really to be winning every single race.
Oh, and Kazuki Cho, he spins out there. We join him just as he does so. He's still going to be in the 4th position, though, at the very least, for the time being. Let's see if he can continue to maintain this one, and that is really where the struggle comes in. And you hit those really sharp turns, and that is where I think some of our mobile competitors, the players coming from Real Racing 3, are certainly going to struggle, right? When you have the steering wheel in your hand and you simply just need, you got to be able to maintain yourself in those moments. It's very, very challenging to do here, Ali.
It's incredibly challenging. Where are we? Just at the back of the track here, and Kwiatkowski still looking for that position. I love the way he's sniffing around. I love the way he's challenging Ballester every chance he gets. Waiting for it, exactly. It shows a lot of experience. It shows that he's not too hot-headed, and I love to see it. These drivers now just through the last few corners and back on board now with Igor Fraga, who may be looking to make good on that battle happening up ahead of him. Down the back straight, and Fraga tucked up in the slipstream here. I love to see it. Second place, Kwiatkowski just up ahead, obscuring his view of Ballester. Will he make a dive here in the braking zone? Holds back for now. And Kwiatkowski with a slightly defensive line there. This is such challenging racing, and everything we're seeing from the drivers here, you know, we're all sitting here watching it, having a great time, but McLaren are also watching it. They're taking notes, understanding what these drivers are like, what their skills are, what maybe some of their some of their weaknesses are as well, what they can work on. It's such a huge amount that's being assessed here on the track, and the drivers have to be feeling that pressure.
Yeah, indeed they do, Ali. The stress is certainly here. You know, I mean, we were joking about us sweating earlier, but I mean, you know, the fact remains, man, like these 8 competitors, they are without a doubt sweating on that stage, going up against one another for all the marbles here at the McLaren Shadow Project. Igor has not been able to find the opening that he wanted against Christian. And then you have Miguel, who has been controlling this first place spot. So well done on his part.
That's Gregory pulling to the side there, so a car being lapped on that straight. Ooh. Falling a lap behind. That's Gregoire, excuse me, not Gregory. Gregoire Foray there, just pulling over to the side and allowing the others through. One of the drivers who qualified through Real Racing 3, of course that iPad game, and maybe struggling slightly with the controls of this. Looks like that car is in no good shape either. He's had a big spill. Yeah,
you can certainly tell that the car is struggling there around the corners. It could be something with the back wheel there. He just has no control on that. Little unfortunate to see, but as we go up ahead, the battle between these 3 drivers and Christian, he's salivating. He wants the opportunity to pass Miguel. He's looking for it. You can tell he's just trying. He's actually like leaning with the car. That's how into it he is, right? He's putting his body into the turns, but he's just not getting it. He's not getting it, Ali. I like that he licked his lips a little bit after he said he was salivating. He had a little bit of a tongue moment there, just a little bit of that. Oh, that is not good. Igor is actually going to collide a little bit with Christian there, and I think Christian's going to be a tad frustrated with that one. He still has Miguel in his sights, and Christian's going to be able to get back into that second position here. Meanwhile, Igor kind of struggling to maintain control of the car. That bump, who knows what it could have done to his right tire. Don't imagine all that much damage was done to it, but still, though, you just got to be mindful of that for the time being.
Getting frustrated with Fraga, looking for a gap that wasn't there, trying to muscle his way through and up into second position. It's going to be denied for now by a very experienced Christian Kwiatkowski sitting there in second, and now all over the rear of Miguel Ballester.
And Miguel is stone-faced and trying to defend here, but Christian, he's going around the outside, but he doesn't get what he wants. He doesn't get what he's looking for. Miguel still manages to hold it, but Christian's going to come off on the left side here. Miguel still in first place. Christian gaining on him quickly.
Beautiful over-under there from Christian Kwiatkowski. And he's got the inside line now as we head down
Igor's
to the
right
heavy
there
braking
too.
zone.
Igor's right there too. Igor's going to be in the middle. He's looking for the opportunity to break in. You can see him kind of weaving his way on the left side here, just looking for the opening. But Christian is just going to take that first place, and Miguel has to watch him pass.
Beautiful racing. Beautiful racing from Kwiatkowski. So patient in the opening laps and waited for an opportunity that was real, unlike Fraga.
Miguel falls back to third. Miguel falls back to third place. Things get a little wobbly for him, and Igor is going to take advantage. He's like a vulture. He sensed that he was weak, and he just pounced right on him.
Vulture, exactly. He's just making good on someone else's mistakes. So both drivers through. but Leicester falls back into third. It's all changing, but this battle, this top three, surely we're looking at our podium lockout here with these first three drivers.
Yeah, this has been such an exquisite race, and you looking here, Igor and Christian are in that same group. They're both in the Logitech G group, so a win here does impact their particular battle. Meanwhile, if you're Miguel, you're kind of happy because Numa's nowhere to be found. So
right.
you're happy about that. At this point now, you're contending with the best on the Logitech side for supremacy.
You're like, hey, you guys just take it. It's all good. I'll sit back here in third. I'll take those points, and that's still going to make me huge amounts of massive difference between Numa and Natali back down the road.
Look
at that face. Look at that face.
We've been watching Miguel throughout the day, and homie don't play like that, period. He's trying to go and get that W.
He always will. He always will. And, you know, in the final, next time out at the McLaren Shadow Project, there'll be no groups. There'll be no, oh, I'm the winner of my group, but even if I didn't win the race, there's nothing to hide behind. You have to be out there winning it, and it'll be the winners from today who go through to that. The same competitors. Now's the time to put your flag in the ground. Now's the time to say, I am the best driver out there, and you all have to follow me across the finish line.
Igor was looking for an opportunity there against Christian, but Christian has been holding firm. And so far, so good for Christian. Man who came through the Logitech side. He is a Spanish sim driver. You know, made it through the wild card from the Madrid game show and then went on to win the Logitech G Challenge at Paris Games Week. So he has had quite a journey up until this point, and this race has kind of signified what has happened to him. It has really highlighted his adventure up until this moment, starting from third, kind of struggling his way to break through, and then finally being able to pass the challenges that are ahead of him here. But Miguel, not to be outdone, he's a little bit behind on Igor and Christian, but can gain on him.
Wow, look at this. Cars on the side of the road, people blocking the way. A lot of mid-pack action has taken place, but we've been watching this incredible battle for the lead. Kwiatkowski up against Fraga. Igor Fraga in second place there. Looks like he's been biding his time a little bit with this one. Waiting for a move. The race is long. He's got plenty of time, you know. He's got the time to wait. Little bump. Just putting the pressure on. That's like, hey, saying, hey, I'm here. Don't forget about me.
A little nudge never hurt anyone, right? I mean, I'm sure our adjudicators in the back will probably feel differently there. But Igor, Igor, he ends up hitting the lip.
That's massive.
He spins out. He spins out. Igor has to be so frustrated with that. He goes into the grass there. He ends up hitting the bump on the turn, and because of that, it costs him dearly. And that is going to allow Miguel to get back into that second place position.
It was a wiggle from the rear, just the rear stepping out on him. Turned the wheel to correct it, but that baguette on the inside curve bounced over it, lost all traction, and a big old spin for Fraga into the barrier. Fortunately for him, he'd rubbed off a lot of that speed by the time he bumped the wall. I don't think there'll be any damage, but still a huge amount of time lost. But Leicester making up a position.
And that will most definitely impact the points that he gains. He has to have a great showing for the rest of this competition. I mean, granted, he'll be. I think he's still in third. I think he's still maintaining that third place spot. But bear in mind, it is that competition between him and Christian in the Logitech G side. And Igor, we hyped him up. We said he's one of the favorites to go all the way, maybe even win the darn thing.
Yep.
But with that happening to him, oh man, you have to be frustrated.
It blows this competition wide open, though.
It really does.
I mean, Christian Kwiatkowski, I strongly rep this driver. You can see him right here leading this race. At the same time, on paper, I would say Fraga has it on him. It's a hugely difficult competition for him to win.
And there's only going to be a couple seconds left on the race here, and as it currently stands, Christian will have that first place pole position, and that will be a wrap ladies and gentlemen, Christian will take home that first place spot. Miguel in second, and then we'll see where the rest of the crew falls from there. But it really was the battle of that first, second, and third place. That was the entire story of that iRacing matchup.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm going to have to take a picture of Fraga spinning off there, just because it happens so rarely with top drivers like that.
Yeah.
They're usually so consistent, lap after lap, able to bang those hot times in, and he just slipped off the track. So uncommon to see, and so unlucky for him. It happened at the first race at the McLaren Shadow Project.
You can see the exact moment when that happened as well. Such an intense start to the semifinals. This has been insane. For now, though, I believe we're going to send it over to Nikki, who's over at the stage right now. What do you got for me, Nikki? Oh, as a matter of fact, I was told that we actually do have some highlights. So Nikki's still standing by. My bad. Nikki is still
like highlights.
standing by.
That's good
but
news.
We're going to go to the highlights first, because I do want to show that moment when Igor actually struggled to be able to maintain his positioning. I hope we were able to get that highlight. So let's show that as soon as we possibly can. And here are the highlights as they stand. And Christian, man, he was really in the dog pile for a good portion of that race.
Yeah, piling the pressure onto Miguel Ballester at the time. Ballester was leading this race from the start. That number 6 car, Kvitnewski in the number 1 car, sitting just behind him. Show lost out early on.
Another shocking one. Did not think that Show was going to lose out like that. Spun out so early, and then you had Gregoire who at the end of it, right, just was not able to get a handle on the car.
And you can see the look on his face. There's such disappointment, knowing that his chances of starting well were up in smoke. That said, he can always come back. This competition has great ways of coming back. Ballester passing a lapped car. They're looking a little bit frustrated with where Gregoire had positioned himself, but that was, I think, before he lost the lead.
Yeah. And Gregoire really just could not get a handle once again of that MP4 12C GT3.
Ah, there it is.
This is the moment. This is the moment. You saw that bump up, shot him up. He spun out. And that was it. That was the end of Igor's run in iRacing. And that was very, very sad to see, just because they were running such an inspired race, Ali.
It had been incredible from Fraga, and I really thought he'd had the class throughout that race to win it. He looked like he had such incredible pace. Just be able to hold on, keep pressure on the drivers in front.
Yeah.
That said, maybe that little moment of aggression that we saw from Fraga, bumping into the rear of Kvitnewski at the first corner, trying to kind of muscle his way by, maybe that's kind of the slightly too aggressive style that we're starting to see emerge from him in this pressure.
Yeah, that could have been his ultimate undoing. So, don't worry. Now we got Nikki standing by over by the stage. Nikki, what you got for me?
Yes, boys, I am always standing by, ready and waiting for you. I'm here with Black Panther. Black Panther, I mean, that was a pretty epic start to the whole day, wasn't it? I mean, what a great race.
Yeah, fantastic.
So in terms of, you've been obviously monitoring everything that's going on the world of social media. Who's looking popular?
Christian and Igor, a lot of support in the chat for them. Yeah.
Well, you can kind of see why. I mean, their performance was pretty out there. But poor Igor, what a crash, what a mistake.
Devastating. It was on top of his game. Always happens.
It always does. Now, you play a lot of these games.
Yes.
And obviously we're playing iRacing, Logitech, and Forza 7 today. What's your fave?
I would say Forza 7, probably the one I have the most experience with.
And why is that? Why do you always favour that one?
Well, I guess it's just a bit more accessible for me anyway, but obviously you can dial up the settings to maximum, and that's what these guys have done.
And coming to, obviously, you're used to, well, I'm assuming, probably sitting at home, maybe in your bedroom, or do you have a special room at home to play your game?
No, not yet.
No, not
Working
yet.
on that.
So in the bedroom. How does it compare to then coming into a massive studio like this, huge setup, lights, cameras everywhere? I mean, the pressure's pretty big.
It's insane pressure. I mean, there's people watching for one. That's crazy, right?
Well, let's hope they're watching anyway.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to obviously keep up to date with the conversation, what is the hashtag that everyone must use?
Hashtag McLaren Shadow.
Okay, hashtag McLaren Shadow. And then finally, there is the potential opportunity, well, it's a rumour anyway, for you to actually drive a McLaren that's featured in one of the games.
Yeah.
That's pretty epic. What do you think that'd be like?
Pretty scary, actually. I'm quite a nervous driver, especially when I first jump into something like that, especially.
I reckon you'd
But
be in
it's
there in
later.
no time, especially with all that go-karting practice you've now had. Right, well, potentially one of these drivers will get that opportunity. But for now, I think it is time to crack on with our second race of the evening. It's time for rFactor 2. Or actually, we're not going to go to rFactor 2. We're going to talk about the leaderboard. Now, if we talk about the leaderboard, it would be good to actually have a leaderboard, which is coming, I am assured. Now, it's obviously going to be slightly different looking at this leaderboard because it is broken down into 3 leagues, into the Logitech, into iRacing, and into the Forza 7. So actually, they're really only competing with each other in the group. So
Yes.
does that make it a little bit easier?
I guess in a way, but also not. I mean,
Yes,
the it's
it is a little bit accusing, but
It
but
is.
hopefully once we get the leaderboard, which has been slightly delayed, but it
That
is
would be-
coming, it'll be with us in a couple of minutes. Okay, well let's backtrack a bit because we briefly talked about the fact that you had the opportunity to go karting with these
Yes.
boys. Do you remember which of them? I'm going to put you on the spot now. Actually, won the go karting race.
ooh, good question.
I'm guessing it was probably Igor because he's got a lot of experience.
Not me. That
It
would
wasn't
be my
you.
answer. Yeah, I'm not so great with the actual driving. Actually, get a bit. Yeah, I'm not trained like
Not
these
trained.
guys. Yeah.
Also, you're quite tall for a go kart.
Yeah.
Did you fit?
I did. I had to push all the seat all the way back.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah.
And does your hair fit into the helmet?
It crushes down surprisingly well.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I had to do it a few times, but
Or maybe it's just extra padding.
yeah, there you
There you
go.
are.
Safety feature.
There is a reason
That's
to
what-
grow
that's-
your
that's
hair,
why I
grow
grow
your
my
hair in an
hair.
afro like that. Now, how long have you been actually sort of playing all of these games and involved in the e-racing community? Because you're a pretty big star, isn't
Yeah.
you?
So for a while, actually, my YouTube channel that's based on car games, 2012 it was created.
Right.
So quite a long time, actually. I mean, since birth, playing racing games. Thanks to my dad. Since birth,
I
yeah.
love it. Popped out playing it. I'm not even going to think about
Exactly.
that. How many hours do you do a week?
Ooh, I don't count. I stopped tracking that a while ago. My own sanity.
A lot.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for chatting to us. Guys, I'm going to throw back to Ali and Alex. How you doing?
Thank you so much, Nikki. We're doing great, and you know, as a person who lacks hair, I will say that I think it's okay that Theo has he just has a lot working up here, right? So when he gets that helmet on, he's well protected. But what happens when I put the helmet on, Ali? What happens with me?
It's a tough old world, isn't it? It's a
You
tough
know,
old world, Alex.
It's
What the hell?
it's not fair. It's simply just not fair. What did you do to me, Mom? and you know what? We've only been a couple minutes into the broadcast, and
Yeah.
we're already talking about birth. I think overall we're
Well, you got the chance to needle your mum in there as well.
Hey,
how does that make you feel?
There's only 3 things in life that are for sure. It's birth, taxes, and adjudication. You like that transition?
That was awesome.
You like
Was
that? That was
awesome.
a good
because
one.
we're going to talk about
Made it-
adjudication.
Made it up on my own. That's right, Mom. I hope you're proud of me. All right, let's talk about adjudication here because this is an aspect of competitive motorsports, esports, right? Which
Yeah.
haven't really figured out my terminology on that one yet.
Nailing it.
Where crushing the game, baby. Where it really has kind of changed
Sure.
the landscape of things, right? Because it's no longer just about where you place; it's also about how you race as well.
Well, that's it, exactly. The drivers are racing a whole bunch of things here. They're racing the limitations of the car, racing the limits of the track, so they don't go 4 wheels over the corners and things like that. But they're also racing a group of people who are out there judging their racecraft and their ability to control the car out on track. There are a lot of reasons why adjudicators might penalize drivers at the end of a race. They might say, hey, you've been a bit rough with other cars. You've been diving into the side of them, barging them around. They might say you've been rough with the track limits. You've been running over the corners and using too much. There are lots and lots of reasons why they give out penalties, but having them in here is just super, super important.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it helps because you're seeing the action live, right? And you're seeing it as it goes along. And for a lot of competitors, they would see, like, as we had mentioned before, right, like the dive bombs or something like that, and they won't necessarily think that what they're doing is like a bad play. But you can also tell at times when a driver goes for that aggressive turn, goes for that aggressive play, and you can see it in their face because they know.
They know
that they pulled some shenanigans.
And after the race, in the driver briefing, they'll be like, just like the little most darling angel. You know? They'll be like,
I did nothing
I
wrong.
had no idea what I did. I got his penalty before.
I was completely fair and in the clear, you know. This was right.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I remember in one of the first events I had ever casted in driving was Forza. And I remember being introduced to the adjudication process.
Right.
And in that adjudication process, I was like so blown away by just the intricacies that you need to have and the understanding. And at first I was like, man, I kind of just want to know who won. But then once you got down to the points and the time and the breakdowns and everything, oh man, it actually became pretty exciting. It's
an added thing on the end of it. It talks about the driver's skill, their ability to drive close to other cars. If you get penalties at the end of the race, you haven't achieved that what you think you've achieved. If you cross the line first and you get a bunch of penalties, you didn't win that race.
That's right.
Because you just weren't good enough on track.
Yeah, technical ability is very important. But when you talk about technical ability, this driver comes to mind. And while it did not reflect in the first race on iRacing, let's not forget that his talent is definitely there. And you're going to see it without a doubt throughout the rest of this competition. It is Igor from Brazil. And we actually got a little background on this impeccable driver.
My name is Igor Fraga, I'm 20 years old and I'm from Brazil, Ipatinga. I qualified through the Logitech G Challenge. I'm a racing driver in the real life too. It's a way to prepare myself doing what I love. I think this relationship starts when I was like 3 years old. My dad wanted to introduce me to the racing, so he bought me like a steering wheel, the PlayStation, and I came into here. To be involved with McLaren, this is my dream. I started to put a lot of effort on the virtual racing as I saw that the real team was getting involved. Winning this competition and being able to join the McLaren Shadow Project, I believe that will be a life-changing experience.
You got to believe what Igor says there, right? Life-changing experience without a doubt this has been, but this has only been the first race. And I know you guys want to see where everything sat, you know, where our competitors were placed. So let's take a look at the leaderboard here. And in first place, it is going to be Miguel, and then Christian, Igor in third. Then you have Henrik, Cho, Numa, Lasse, and Gregoire at the bottom there. But 8 points for Miguel here.
8 points for Miguel, and if you remember, he came across the line in second place. Christian won that race, the first. We came across the line first. That must mean there was a post-race penalty for Christian, which knocked him down the field and allowed Miguel to take that lead. I'm right in remembering that, right?
Yeah. I do believe you are right, and for sure we can also get the information from the refs in the back to get essentially like the lowdown on what's been going on here. But let's also now take a look at how it impacts the mini tournament, the tournament within the tournament, right? The Logitech G, the Real Racing 3, and the Forza 7. So Miguel has a clear lead over Numa in that Forza 7 category, but the Logitech G, as expected, very, very close. Meanwhile, Henrik, a strong showing here, is going to put him in a really, really powerful position moving forward, especially as they get to their game, Real Racing 3.
You know, as a bit of fun mental maths as well, you can add up all the collected points by each game and try and work out who's the most skillful at the end.
Well, iRacing is a sim racer.
Is that kind of mean tribalism that I shouldn't be?
I think you are the problem, Ali. You are the problem.
I'm what's wrong with society.
You're so toxic. And but that challenge, I guess, that competition between Christian and Igor was something that we were certainly highlighting. Now, Cho, he is not out of this by a long shot because there's still plenty of competition left here.
Look, only 3 points separate Christian and Cho. That's the leading Logitech driver from the last place one. That's less than any other split across either of the other games, or the ways of qualifying, I should say. So Cho is very much still in this. He's very much still able to win this competition. So yeah, I mean, keep his head down, get some great results throughout the rest of it, and I think Cho can do really, really well.
All right, well, there was the leaderboard, but for now, let's send it back over to Nikki at the stage.
Thanks very much, guys. Now, this is really just a bit of a quick reminder because obviously we had Black Panther here talking earlier. He is watching the social media like a hawk, or Black Panther, I suppose. Make sure you keep up to date with the conversation using the hashtag McLaren Shadow, and we'll give you guys a shout out. We want to know what you think of the drivers, what you think of the competition and the races, so do let us know. Now, earlier on, our drivers raced on rFactor 2. Let's find out about the game and see how they got on.
For the next round, we're staying in the UK and heading to the home of the British Grand Prix. It's Silverstone. This track contains 18 turns on a pretty level elevation, owing to the fact it's built on an old airfield. Playing on rFactor 2, there are 10 laps, with all players using the McLaren MP4-8 to battle it out for those precious points. The semi-finalists will need to approach the circuit carefully, as Silverstone is one of the fastest tracks out there.
We had our competitors go against one another in rFactor 2. So we caught some of the highlights of that one, and we're going to go and jump into the action in just a little bit to kind of give you the lowdown of what happened. There were some amazing moments in that rFactor 2 clash, and it was a kind of a joy for me because it was the first time I'd ever seen the game in action as well.
Yeah.
So interesting matchup.
And it's an amazing game. It's, you know, again, a lot like iRacing, very sort of sim focused, lots and lots of data being passed in and out of the game, people creating all sorts of fun mods for it as well. So yeah, it's a difficult game as well. I think we're going to see that a little bit in this video.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the clash on rFactor 2. All right, so this was the start of the race here, and as we had mentioned before, you know, when it came to Cho, you know, kind of cheating a little bit. We knew a bit about what had happened earlier on with Cho, with everyone in this competition, but the real shocker was Miguel, who spun out not once, but 2 times at the start of that race. And I was blown away that had happened.
Unbelievable bad luck for Miguel Ballesta. At the start of this race, you know, he looked so promising. We'd seen him fighting it out, you know, throughout the practice sessions, really being at the top of the timing table, and then to spin out at the start, yeah, I mean, it tumbled right back to the rear of the field.
Yeah, and then you had our Real Racing 3 competitors that were struggling just a tad to be able to get their bearings at the start of it. And there goes the other one.
That's the second spin.
And Miguel just, you could see the frustration in his face, but he kept it together. And I think that was the more impressive part of all of this. It really just shocked me. And then you had Kazuki Cho from Japan, who wasn't at third place spot. You had Christian and Igor was just gone. I don't think anyone was able to keep up with him in this one.
Igor seemed so plugged in, didn't he? You know, a driver who we kind of now know makes mistakes sometimes. He looked invincible out here on rFactor 2, really threading those corners together. We're looking at Gregoire here, though, who had a great race as well. One of the Real Racing 3 people. We didn't look a lot of at him in the iRacing race just now, but actually someone really promising in rFactor 2.
Yeah, he was rather competitive here. There were some moments where he did struggle on some turns, kind of like this one right here where he hits the grass, and that's where you see that spin out happen. Very unfortunate turn of events that had occurred there, but that first, second, and third place battle was so awesome to watch. And again, it was Igor that was in firm control. Gregoire had fell back, and Miguel was the Cinderella story in rFactor 2. He climbed right back into the race, and it started with overtaking Gregoire. And then from there, well, he never looked back.
He pushed forwards and forwards, and it's so great to see. It is right now, looking back on it, and it was great to see back then how Miguel kept his head up, kept his shoulders down, and stayed completely composed. After the spins, he just seemed to get faster and faster, more and more confident behind this 1993 Formula One car.
And then let's not forget about Henrik, right? Henrik, our other competitor that came from Real Racing 3, the mobile game, showed what he was capable of on rFactor 2. He hung in there. He was in that 4th position for a good chunk of the race. Christian in that battle with Igor, I actually shouldn't even really call it a battle, because Igor was so far gone that Christian never got an opportunity to attempt to overtake. Instead, you had Kazuki Cho in that back line that was pushing his luck and trying to get right behind Christian to see if he could push his advantage.
And Cho was doing such a great job breaking down that gap, getting closer and closer to Christian up ahead. He looked like he might be able to grab a little podium position for himself here. A cheeky little win from the jaws of what had been quite a challenging race for him.
And we hadn't really covered much on Numa. Numa in that last race didn't really get, in the iRacing race, didn't really get a lot out of that one. And it was kind of the same here in rFactor 2, stuck in the middle of the pack. And, you know, I'm sure for him it's a rather frustrating occurrence. And I think he's going to be looking for a W in Forza when that happens eventually. But again, this second, third place battle between Christian and Cho was very interesting to watch. And then you had Igor, who was going for a nice Sunday drive.
It looked like it. So calm. It's great to see that little picture-in-picture of his face, completely relaxed behind the wheel and able to handle what is essentially a skateboard strapped to a rocket. This car has an amazingly powerful engine. Not a turbo-era F1 car, a little bit after that, but still incredibly light, incredibly potent engine, and a very difficult thing to keep in a straight line, if I'm honest.
And this is when Miguel started to rally and get back into the race. Despite spinning out 2 times, he was gaining on driver after driver, passing as many competitors as he could along the way. It was kind of like a hit list almost for Miguel, and he executed that one brilliantly.
It's great to see just through the back of the track here, and he was threading that car really nicely. I love the style of Ballesta's driving, of Miguel Ballesta's driving. Someone who's very, very smooth, able to keep the just conserve tires, basically, just doesn't challenge the car too badly.
In the back, though, in that 8th position, was Lasse, our Swedish driver, the family man as well. The self-described casual gamer coming into this one, just looking for a little bit of lady luck to be on his side. But in rFactor 2, luck certainly did not play in rFactor.
I'm reeling. I feel like
you like that?
I feel like we can all expect better.
Oh, really? I'm sure I'm being eviscerated by the YouTube chat right now.
Yeah.
Just people saying, like, you know, just a lot of face palms. Which I honestly, I fully embrace it, man. You know, you can't put Golden Boy on the mic and expect him not to make 1 or 2 terrible jokes, you know. And I know I talked about myself in the 3rd person there, but that's just what you do when you're a global leader.
I loved it. Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. This was Cho.
Yes.
Pushing too hard. He was running in 3rd,
man.
even closing the gap to 2nd place Kwiatnowski. Slipped off the track there, and it seems to all come down to his aggression.
Now, a little thing about Cho that I find very interesting is that he doesn't have a lot of experience in these games. Talked to him before the competition had even started, and he said to me that his game of choice is Gran Turismo. That is the game that he plays in Japan. So he was not all that familiar with Forza, obviously knowing the name Forza, but iRacing or rFactor 2, these were games that, while you know you hear about, as I'm sure you have to hear about as a sim racing fan, you don't really, sometimes you just don't have access to them in your region. So I think what's more impressive was how he was able to pick up this game that was a relative unknown to him and still manage to perform admirably.
I completely agree. I'm so in agreement, and that, to me, that's a huge amount of what the McLaren Shadow Project is about as well. That the ability to adapt, the ability to pick up a new game, a new platform, you know, a new car setup if you're Randy Van Buren and you're a sim driver for McLaren. Pick up something new and just be able to push it to its limit consistently over and over again. Cho, he's showing a lot of that ability to adapt, but the consistency maybe still needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, and Gregoire, he was maintaining himself at the middle of the pack here alongside with Numa in that 5th spot, just looking for a car that he could potentially overtake. But things were just getting a little out of hand there. There you saw Numa just in the distance, cracking along on those turns. But Gregoire keeping right to it. And also an interesting thing of note, you know, Gregoire, you kind of look at his face and you can see the pressure and the tension there, right?
Sure.
There certainly was some stress. It wasn't just from the car. It was, you know, just the game itself, right?
Yeah, he seemed so plugged in. I mean, certainly taking a lot of that nervous energy and turning it into concentration, turning it into speed in the track, because it can go the other way too. You know, take some people, some personality types won't do well under pressure, but certainly Gregoire showing that he's got the stuff to make himself a great driver, maybe with a little bit more experience on these very dedicated sims.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how his career continues to blossom in the sim racing genre. But you talk about keeping it cool, you need to talk about Igor, who was in just firm control this whole race. It was not just a couple, laps in. No, it was from start to finish. He started at the pole position, and in the pole position, he stayed because no one was able to contend against him. The only person who was even mildly close was Christian, but this was Christian's view for a majority of this race. No Igor in sight. At this point, he was battling against the person that was behind him in third position.
That's right, Igor had checked out completely. What a great drive from him. That's maybe why we were so surprised during the iRacing race. We've just watched to see Igor make that massive mistake, slide off the track, spin off, and lose all that time. So it's all coming around. The balance is all shifting now. I think, depending on how this one ended out, I think Igor keeping out there, pushing along at the front, may have maintained. It's going to change the leaderboard completely when we look at that.
But you spoke about spinning out, and he got a reference again at Miguel. Spun out twice at the beginning of this race. And where was he? Third place. That's right. He had passed Gregoire. He had passed Henrik. He got to that third place spot. And that is something that you have to praise, because Cho had spun out earlier on, or I should say later on, and was never really able to recover, as you're seeing here. Even now, still losing control. And this was not a case of contact, right? When these two drivers spun out, this was just both of them trying to maneuver around one another. But unfortunately, those wheels, they're slippery. And if you get a little bit of that tire on the grass, you're going to be finding yourself mowing the lawn.
I tell you, back in 1993, when Ayrton Senna drove this car, it had some traction control systems in it to help tame that very, very wild engine strapped just behind the driver. That traction control maybe not being quite as helpful as it could have been for those two drivers as they tried to accelerate their way out of Luffield and find themselves in the barrier there. It's not an easy car to drive, and that kind of thing is very, very easy to do in it. Great skill shown by everyone out there on track.
Yeah, and Igor, most importantly, look how far ahead. At this point in the race, he was plus 10.7 seconds ahead of Christian, and the rest of no one saw him. No one could catch up to him. He was gone. He owned this track. It was his. Silver. I mean, even with a little bit of that, with that issue, he was so far ahead. He was so far ahead that no one was able to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely. And he didn't need to do stuff like that. He didn't need to throw the car over the curbs. I think he's just having a good time out there in front. Knew he had this wrapped up.
As you call it?
A little bit of a giggle, mate. Yeah, something like that. He was way out there in front, and maybe that was just a little concentration slip or something.
That happens to the best
easy to do.
Man.
Happens to the best.
Happens to me all the time. I have concentration slips on the rig. So, and some people just say that I'm not focused, but I just say that it's a concentration
I'm just
slip.
so far in the lead.
Yeah. I'm so far in the lead of life that sometimes I have a concentration slip.
A lapse.
Yeah. A lapse in judgment. Oh man, but you have to be concentrated. If you were Miguel, you have to concentrate on the task at hand, I should say, because it was so tough for him to be able to claw his way back into this one. And although he was about plus 19 seconds behind Christian, just for him to be able to create that gap between himself and Henrik, I think alone is just something that you got to give the extra kudos for, right?
Yeah, the race ending really with insult to injury for Lassie, who managed to, I think, bring home 7th in the end, but another spin for him on that final lap. Very difficult indeed.
Yeah, it was tough. Gregoire still keeping in the competition. Igor was so far ahead, even built upon the lead that he had, despite the cheeky turns that he was making. And this leads to the end of it, and Igor was the winner of rFactor 2. But man, that was just such a great race. And once again, you saw the highlights. This was the highlights of the race from earlier on today. We had watched this one in the back, and it was just crazy to see how it played out.
Amazing, amazing drives from everyone out there.
Yeah, so that is going to be the conclusion of rFactor 2. Now, if you're just joining us, we finished iRacing, which saw, was it Christian, take that first place spot. Now, in rFactor 2, it was Igor. And this is the battle of the Logitech racers, because Christian, Igor clashing against one another here, looking for that top position. Only one can move on to the finals for the McLaren Shadow Project.
It's amazing to see, isn't it? Every race now seems to be the beginning of maybe some kind of bouncing here, with Igor maybe losing out in the first race in iRacing, Christian coming back there in race number 2 and slipping behind Igor, I should say. Get myself all confused, too worked up. But it was a awesome couple of races. I'm super excited to see how that works out on the leaderboard. Are they tied in the lead now? Is that how
I don't know. Well, we got to see.
Tell me. You got to tell me, man.
I don't have the power. I'm just waiting for production to tell me when we're going to start showing the leaderboards again. That's all I care about. I want to, and I'm sure everyone in the chat and folks watching at home and our drivers here as well want to know where we are sitting. I mean, that race, it was a pretty exciting game.
It was cool. And I loved seeing a little bit more of some of the guys who qualified through Real Racing 3 as well. You know, these are drivers who are developing still, perhaps. Real Racing is fantastic for giving the fundamentals of the drivers, but it doesn't necessarily give you the finesse that you need for iRacing. But it's fantastic to see them getting that chance to really sort of learn a little bit, and you can see them progressing on track. It's brilliant.
But what is going to be fun is that later on, we're going to Real Racing 3. And that is when things start to change dramatically, because you put the steering wheels away and you bust out the iPads, and you're getting down to the brass tacks here. That is where it's going to be fun. I'm excited for that one, only because of just, you know, the completely different change of pace that we're going to see, right? You kind of go from the sim racing, and Real Racing 3 is, you know, very, very well done as far as like racing on the mobile platform goes. But there's still going to be some, you know, wonkiness is the word that I want to latch onto here for a lot of our sim racers. This is where I think we're going to see the Real Racing 3 competitors shine, or at least that's what I'm hoping for.
I love it. I love the you know, the different way of putting controls in. This is
how Ali drives.
Esports
everyone.
racing.
If you're ever in a car with Ali, he drives like this. It's very dangerous.
Hey, you know how I spice things up? A little bit of this.
Oh, a little bit of the honk. You know how I spice things up? Just turn straight right. Just, you know, or I should say left, you know, because I'm American and that's what we do in NASCAR. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboards when we have an opportunity to do so. And I believe they are ready to go. And here we are. So Igor in that one takes the 8 points. Christian with 6, Miguel with 5, Henrik with 4. That is a strong showing from Henrik, by the way. Huge credit to him and Gregoire, the Real Racing boys, really shining at the middle of the pack there. Then Cho falls back down to 6, gets 2 for that one. Lasse takes 1, and Numa, unfortunately for him, our other Forza 7 competitor, gets a fat donut for that.
I mean, Numa could barely afford that, could he? I mean, a big donut, as you say, 0 points. And that's a huge difference to his rival, Miguel Ballesta, sitting there in 3rd place after that race, who'll pick up 5 points and put those towards his total.
Well, let's see how this plays out in the groups. So that means Igor takes first place by 1 point. 1 point over Christian. Cho, because of that showing, does not gain a lot of points out of that one. What was a close race, he really needed to show up in rFactor 2, but let's see how things pan out for him moving forward in the rest of this competition. Then Henrik will firmly be in that first place spot for the Real Racing 3 group, and then the same for Miguel. 13 points there, tied, by the way, with Igor.
That's true. Look at you looking at that old 10,000-foot view. I like it, the zoom out. I was stuck in there looking at just Forza. Tied for the lead of this altogether, Igor and Miguel. I mean, you've got to think Miguel has got Numa's number now, right? I mean, there's 11 points between them, and we're not even halfway through the competition.
Oh boy, this has been great. I've been having such a good time, and we actually do have Nikki standing by. And I want to, Nikki, you having a good time?
I'm having a good time. Are you having a good time? I hope so. We're not coming back to you. We're still on me. Now, we are still getting to know these players pretty well, their driving skills at least. But I want to know, what are they like off the track? Let's meet our next competitor.
Lasse Wiman from Gothenburg, Sweden at McLaren Center, qualifying through Real Racing 3. The reason for me trying to qualifying through McLaren Shadow Project was all my friends says I'm the fastest gamer on this planet. I'm really proud of being here at McLaren because of the history they have in racing cars. The tour today around the McLaren and play a game on your iPhone and actually
Real Racing 3. So over to our shoutcasters to tell us all about it.
no need for practice, I'm gonna win this anyway.
Now, we will tell you a little bit about Real Racing 3 a little bit later. We do have a few technical difficulties at the moment. But as you can see, I am behind the scenes. And I actually had a chance to catch up with the adjudicator earlier to find out the notes from our first race, iRacing. Now, let me get the correct, so I don't want to get this wrong. Now, it was, in fact, Christian. He was given a 10-second penalty for breaching track limits. Now, of course, that meant he moved down from first position into second position. So he is pretty gutted about that result. But of course, the rules are the rules, and you have to abide by them. And then old Igor, he was given a 5-second penalty for a bit of car contact. Not quite as dramatic as Christian, but there we go. That just shows that these guys back here are doing their jobs. They are working away furiously. But I think we are back up and running to find out all about Real Racing. Wow, they really are a very talented group of individuals. But now it's time for something a bit different. The next game is Real Racing 3. So over to Ali and Alex to tell us a little bit more about it.
Real Racing 3 is the perfect proving ground for up-and-coming talent. They'll take on the Hockenheim Ring for a best-of-3 laps time trial on this popular mobile game. Whoever has the best time after 3 laps will take the top spot and add those points to the leaderboard. Hockenheim Ring is made up of 17 corners with an elevation change of only 4.4 meters. There's some tight turns, which will rely on the driver's awareness and braking skills as much as their steering and acceleration. Now, because this event is a time trial, we got our drivers to set the best lap earlier today. Now, let's take a look at what happened. All right, well, here we go. Our first driver will be Henrik, who will take on Hockenheim Ring here. Bear in mind, once again, he's going to be using that 600 LT, very fast car for this track.
Yeah, of course, the LT at the end of the name there signifying it's a long tail. So this car, 2.8 inches longer than the 570S that this car is based on, so it's a little bit more difficult to get around the very, very tight corners here at Hockenheim, but lots of stability on places like the Parabolica that we're heading through right now.
Yeah, and very interesting. Oh, that is not good. To be able to hit the corner like that, that is very, very rough. What's interesting about this is that, like, because of that lap, it evidently becomes invalid. You just can't go off of the track like that. Which makes it very, very challenging, especially in this kind of form factor, right? Playing a game like this, you know, on mobile, very, very tough. It's kind of like learning how to walk again, Ali.
Absolutely right. I mean, we're looking right now at the first few players. These are the ones who qualified through this game. So these guys should have it. These guys should have the skills on the iPad in order to be able to keep it on the track. pushing a little bit hard there, maybe Henrik. Lassie, we had a little look at him driving earlier on. Seems solid out there, but an invalid lap for Henrik. That's massive.
Yeah, that is certainly going to hurt. We'll see how that works out for them. And, you know, you're also going to be using those motion controls as well, which sometimes, you know, they can be reliable, you know, if you're like very used to it, which these two players certainly are. But then in other instances, you know, they kind of become a little wonky, right? You don't really know what to expect. So, you know, dealing a little bit with the input there, but also just dealing with this car, dealing with this very fast car on this track that just has so much going for it, so many turns that really just catch you off guard.
They come at you very, very quickly at Hockenheim. It's a track with fast straights, but once you get into the later stage of the track, Sector 2, Sector 3 I'm thinking of, that's when the corners really start piling themselves on. The stadium section at the end of the track, very, very tricky indeed.
And a couple major takeaways there is that a lot of those turns, especially for the motion controls, definitely are a lot more challenging than you would actually expect.
And you got to compound that with how much pressure there is on these drivers to perform. It's a one-shot thing. You just got to get out there, set, first of all, a clean time. That's a time where you keep all your tires inside of the track limit, but also, because the competition's so stiff, a fast time.
That's right. And also, I do believe this is going to be a best of 3, right? So you want to get the best possible time that you can get here. And here comes that big turn. This is the hairpin, I believe. And this is one that's messed up many drivers in the past. So very well done to be able to execute that turn there, because that one could really throw you off if you're not careful.
Yeah, Hendrik on his second attempt here, and he will need to be dialing it back a little bit at this point. He's failed his first lap, made it invalid. Now he needs to set one in his second attempt that's going to be in the bank. Safe, clean, maybe a little bit less fast. 80%, 70%. That's the kind of intensity of driving that I'm looking for from Hendrik right now.
I think that's a really strong start for him. I mean, granted, that first one didn't work out all that well, but you kind of take to the track again, and now you kind of learn from your mistakes, and then hopefully you're able to build out a better time for your next race. Well, now we're going to be going over to Gregoire from France. This guy, again, right, he did not qualify from this, so this is where I'm very curious to see how these guys are going to.
Gregoire did qualify from Real Racing. He's the final one who did. The other chap will be running alongside him, and that's Numa, did not. He's somebody who's, this is going to be a little bit of foreign territory for him out in this game, but I'm expecting Gregoire to do well. We see his first attempt down into the hairpin. Yeah,
and already just overall, I was going to say it started off very strong, right? A very clean start, but man, that hairpin is diabolical.
That means that they're not being able to collect the car on the way out of the corner, and that's Numa off the track. T1, dude. You got to do better than that.
Yeah, but again, this is where things start to get really dicey for these guys that are not used to this kind of style of play, right? You're asking someone to essentially write cursive when they've never learned it before. It's a completely different skill that you have to have here.
You know what? Numa keeping it neat and tidy here on his next attempt. And this says a lot about the qualities that people are looking for in the McLaren Shadow Project. And that's the ability to adapt, the ability to learn quickly, the ability to get to a car to its limit without much track time. Numa doing a good job here and keeping it clean through the hairpin.
You kind of just have to accept that you need to slow down a lot going into that turn. You can't really hit it aggressively or else you're going to slide off. Look right there, right? You get really dicey and you start to see those motion mechanics play a factor.
Gregoire looked very solid there. I mean, I think that was a strong run from Gregoire and one that could see him climbing up leaderboards later on.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing who is going to be the driver that comes out on top with this one here. But despite some of the snags that Numa has had, I am going to commend him for overall pretty solid racing on Real Racing 3.
Hockenheim is a track that all of these drivers will be very familiar with. They'll be familiar with the 600 LT, that very, very fast McLaren. I mean, we can call it a road car. It's more like a track car, really, in a lot of ways. He'll be familiar with the components that put this together, but not necessarily with the platform that they're playing on. Good learning, though, from Numa. Very, very fast learning.
I also like the way that he took that last turn, inside like that. That was really nice, and then that allowed him to be able to get that speed going into this next turn. Yeah, this is good. I mean, he's putting together a pretty solid lap, but it all comes down to that big turn, that hairpin that has been destroying everyone. That is your 6th turn, and here it is. It's coming up right now. Oh, and does he hit it?
Beautiful. Solid as a rock there from Numar. I love that hairpin.
He has been nailing those turns. Everything's been clean. He's under already on his last run there, right? You see the negative number popping up at the top of his current lap. He is shredding this track.
That's right. Through Sachs, this is the stadium complex, so right at the end of the track. Hopefully he can keep it clean now in the run to the line. Just Sud curve remaining, that long double right-hander. Keep the steering in, the rear pops out.
Oh my goodness.
What a save though, beautifully held, and Numar again.
Oh man, and
it's a wild ride.
You hear that tire screeching, you get a little worried because you're like, oh, something bad might happen, but Numa keeps it very steady on the track. That was a very, I know, right? Yeah, it gets the heart running. I'm looking forward to seeing what his final total is going to be. But now we're moving on to our next driver. It's going to be Miguel from Spain. Let's see what he does here.
He's looking comfortable through the first turn. Remember, this is his first attempt as well. So Miguel, a strong start from him. We're just trying to read right now what his skills are like on Real Racing 2. Keep in mind, this is a competitor who came in through the Logitech qualifiers, so somebody who doesn't necessarily have a huge amount of experience in this game, but right now, looking tidy, looking clean on his first attempt.
And he's also playing inside of the car as well, which I find to be very interesting, because when I play mobile racing games, I actually tend to like to view the car, only because of my unfamiliarity with racing on mobile. So going with the, with the cockpit view, as you call it, or the hood, or yeah, man, that's rough.
Miguel, though, right here, got a clean run his first time, so now he can throw everything at it and see what he can do to push himself up that leaderboard.
Yeah, see how quickly he can make his way up this, up and down the track here. Hockenheim has so many unique Hockenheimring has so many unique turns. It really is, it's such a crazy track, because you start off with a pretty sharp turn, and then you make your way in turns 2, 3, and 4, kind of all merge from a sharp turn that kind of blends into one. And it's fun, because then you go into that hairpin, and that's where everything starts to change. That's when your momentum starts to slow down, and that's where you got to be very tactical with how you make these turns.
Absolutely. Miguel looks like he's done a decent job through all those twists and turns. The final corner now he's powering out of.
But let's take a look at Igor's next run here, and once again, he's got to put a clean run together, and so far, so good. He's making his way around the final turn, the Sud curve, and he's going to nail it. And it's actually going to be under his previous run.
Nicely done, yeah. I mean, he is, ruined that first lap. I'm going to say ruined, maybe be a bit harsh with it, but he did put all 4 wheels outside, managed to collect it together for his second attempt. Now he's put a clean lap in. That's everything. His final attempt, he can now push, throw everything at the track. It doesn't matter so much if he slides off, makes a mistake under pressure. Same deal for Miguel.
Seems like Miguel, though, he's playing it so safe that his first run was so good, but he hasn't really been able to mount anything in his second and third laps, I should say. I think that's kind of where the frustration's coming from, right? Where he wants to kind of get ahead of this, but he can't seem to. This is better than what he had previously, but he's still not hitting what he wants. And Igor, once again, with another invalid lap.
Invalid. Well, he'll take his second lap. He's got something in the pocket. He's got something in the pocket already. Big shame, though, for a driver who, looks very strong in this competition. You're absolutely right with Miguel. Maybe somebody who's looking like he's not pushing the car too hard here, and that's causing, you can see the ghosted car overhead.
This is going to be a big turn. This is a big turn. Big turn. He hits it beautifully, goes into the inside, makes his way right through the apex. That is going to give him a little bit of a lead, and you can see that was satisfaction.
That was a good one.
That was happiness. So I'm a little shocked though with Igor, right? Like he hasn't really had the cleanest of runs, but he at the very least, Ali, has that second lap.
You've got to remember that all these groups of drivers, they're not necessarily fighting each other for a place in the final. We've got 3 groups here. We've got the Forza group, we've got the Logitech group, and also the Real Racing group. Miguel and Igor, 2 people coming from different groups, one from Forza, one from Logitech. They're not necessarily up against each other, but a big difference there between them in this particular challenge.
And now we move on to our next competitor from Spain. You have Christian, who already, I don't know if you saw, had already had an invalidation on one of his turns. So because of that, this one won't really amount to all that much.
Great shame, great shame. It's that first attempt. You really don't want to push too hard. And the same thing for Cho here, another invalid lap. You don't want to push too hard in your first attempt because really all you want is to get a clean lap in the back.
Something out there.
Set something out there, exactly. And then you can push later on.
Yeah.
Work your speed up.
Exactly, right? You can throw that first safe pitch, right? As you would say in baseball, right? Usually that'll end up being a strike. Maybe you get a swing, maybe you don't, but you just want to play it safe. You don't really want to try and go too crazy at the beginning here. But because of that, no, Christian and Cho will not have a valid lap for this first lap here. Let's see how they do in the second. That's going to be important, right?
It's going to be big for them.
You got used to it. You got used to the controls now. Get back into it. See how it works out.
Going down that run towards turn one with Christian. Kwiatkowski is a very fast driver indeed, somebody who's done some amazing things on more sort of sim-type games. Not necessarily somebody who's known, though, for his skills in real racing, too. So this is a test, a new test for him. Cho here, sliding off the track again.
Oh, man. Real Racing 3 has been a challenge for these two competitors. And Cho, little shocked. We don't know a lot about this guy, right? You know, coming from Japan and coming from that region where really, you know, for a lot of esports, you really don't know what to expect because a lot of their tournaments, you know, happen so quickly out there. They happen so frequently. You just don't really know the kind of competitor you're getting. But so far, though, for Cho, it has been a struggle on Real Racing 3.
Go Kwiatkowski down towards the stadium section for his next attempt. Mobile 1 is a tricky corner. There's gravel on the outside of it. We're jumping back to Cho, and hopefully Kwiatkowski kept it clean through there. That's a bit tight though from Cho, jumping all over the curbs there on turn 2, and I think already having invalidated that lap if that orange counter is anything to go by.
Well, I'm looking at Christian's perspective right now, and so far so good for him. He's going to make his way right around the suit curve here, and you know, it's not the best, but it's going to have to do. Race complete. That was, you know, that's the best possible lap you can ask for, right? And I think he's going to make another run again as we take a look at Cho, who is having a rough time on Real Racing 3.
It's been difficult to adapt for Cho. That's very, very evident from the way he's driving right now. Very wide there on the exit to the middle sector and heading now towards the stadium. The lap's already invalidated, but he may be able to bring it home at least with a decent time.
Christian's doing his final lap here. Let's see what he could do. So far, so good. Nicely done. I believe that's what, turn 2 into 3. So far, this is looking great. This is what you want to see, right? If you're Christian, you're happy with this one. The real challenge is going to be coming up ahead because you're going to gain a lot of speed out of this one, but it's all about how you tackle the hairpin. Here it goes. Pins and needles.
Oh, the curb there on the way into the corner and
saves it.
Beautiful, nicely held as well. That car got bumpy over the inside curb, managed to apply the power in a way which kept all 4 wheels at least spinning in the right direction, not spinning too much, and nicely done. Maybe not the fastest, but at least clean.
So far, this has been an amazing run here for Christian. I mean, Ali, look at his under, right? He's under 0.500 practically, right? So far, this is the best possible run that Christian could ask for. He's making his way around some of the final turns here, and they have been very clean. He just needs to maintain this for the time being.
Look at that, finding another 2 tenths in that last sector, 7 tenths. It's still clean.
Keeps it going. Keeps it going here right around the final turn. That's a lap that he can be very proud of.
Beautifully done, beautifully done. And the thing I loved about all of Kwiatkowski's runs was watching him develop throughout them. You know, he started off slower, maybe made a couple of mistakes, but then throughout them managed to push the car and really put something nice together by the end.
And Cho, it has been Struggle City Population 1 because he is the sole resident, has not been able to get anything going in Real Racing 3. Every lap has gotten progressively worse as time has gone on. And I think it's just, sometimes, right, you're just not all that familiar with how it plays, and you're dealing with motion controls, which is very different from using a steering wheel, and that is going to be the final run there for Cho. Not the best, not what he wanted, but still though, right, you got past that part, still plenty more to play for. And now we're over halfway through the semifinals. And, Ali, what have we learned about these drivers so far?
There are so many different ways to come to this semi-final, so many different types of qualification. We've seen a lot of drivers who are good at real sort of simi-type games, very detailed, data-driven games. We're thinking there about people like Miguel or Igor, Christian. But then there are other drivers who are going to shine when we get an iPad on them, or in later games as well. So it's anyone's race, really, as we approach the end of this competition.
Yeah, and we've learned so much about a lot of our drivers. But before we find out the points, we do want to find out some more about one of our other competitors here. It's Gregoire from France.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Grégoire Forêt, j'ai 19 ans, je viens de Troissereux en France et je suis en Angleterre pour le McLaren Shadow Project. Alors j'ai commencé à jouer à rFactor il y a 5 ans. McLaren est très présent en compétition et donc je suis honoré d'être ici à Woking. J'ai bien aimé la visite au McLaren Technology Center. Ça m'a permis de découvrir l'histoire de McLaren à travers les différentes voitures et à travers les différentes époques. Remporter pour moi le McLaren Shadow Project sera une consécration et jamais j'aurais pu imaginer remporter une telle compétition via un jeu mobile.
So our players have now been tested on both regular races and time trials. Let's take a look at the results of the Real Racing 3. Now we should be able to see the leaderboard coming up now. Henrik is currently in the lead of that race, followed by Lasse, Gregor, Igor, Christian, Miguel, Numa down in 7th and Chloe in 8th. Now, how has that affected our leaderboard? Right, okay, well, you can see Igor there absolutely storming ahead with 17 points in the Logitech lead. Then actually not far behind is Christian with 15 points. If we then look down at Real Racing 3, Henrik up there with 16, Lasse and Gregor. And then in the Forza League, we've got Miguel with 15 points. Numa down with just 3 points. Although it's something to note, actually, in the Real Racing Type 3 time trials, all the drivers obviously set 3 laps. All of them, bar one, had 1 lap invalidated because they didn't stick to track limits. Miguel was the only one who did on all 3 laps, so well done, Miguel. Now, that was the leaderboard. After a storming performance in Real Racing 3, I think it's time to get to know one of our other drivers. All the way from Japan, it's Cho.
名前は張和樹と言います。出身は日本北海道の芽室町です。年齢は25歳です。ロジテックの G チャレンジアジア太平洋パシフィックレーシングを勝ち上がってここに来ました。ゲームを始めたきっかけは、車が好きで、ゲームを始めました。ゲーム自体をやっていると本当にレースをしているかのような緊張感ですとかドキドキを味わうことができて本当にやっていて楽しいものです。マクラーレンシャドウプロジェクトの一員としてレースを戦えるということで非常に興奮しています。そういうことも含めてしっかりと、この一員として頑張っていきたいと思います。
Well, some fighting talk there from our Japanese driver. Now, do remember, I know I keep reminding you, but do get involved with the conversation. Make sure you use that hashtag McLaren Shadow because, we want to know your opinion. What do you think of the drivers? Who is your favourite? What do you think of the competition? Could this be you next year? Let us know if you think it is. Right, okay. Now it is time to move on to race 4. And wow, this is a big one.
our drivers will be using Forza Motorsport 7 for our race in Belgium as we head over to the world-famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Competing for 10 laps and stretching over 4.3 miles, this track is the longest used on the McLaren Shadow Project and is a favourite amongst motorsport professionals. With its long straights and slow arching corners, it gives the drivers plenty of opportunity to showcase their talents as well as pushing their skills to the limit.
Well, if iRacing is the granddaddy, Forza is the papi chulo of racing. That's right. Caught him off guard. Caught everyone off guard. That's it. You can't expect a Puerto Rican to come to the UK not drop some of that slang.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
I'm just throwing it out there. Sorry, Woking.
Every day of the week.
Yeah.
Every day of the week.
Every day of the week.
Try the shrimp.
All right. Well, yes, it is going to be Forza Motorsport 7, and this is a game that you and I are both very, very familiar with. You having casted Forza RC, me doing that eons ago. I guess, this is where I want to see Numa really step up. He's going to be the guy to look out for. He is not out of this quite yet. He still has 2 more competitions to go, and the race has begun. Let's jump into the action here and start things off. We might as well, just remind everyone that we're going to be on Francorchamps, a very, very famous track in not only Forza, but just in the racing world, and also a personal favorite of yours, Ali.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, not so distant from my house. Living in the Netherlands, it's just down the way in Belgium, across the border. Show down there actually made up a position in the first corner, just to acknowledge that. But yeah, it's right next to my house, so a nice little track.
So this is basically Ali's backyard.
I would even I own it. I own the whole circuit.
He owns the whole circuit. That's it. This is the home of Ali.
I went there one time.
He went there one time, but he's claimed it as his own. All right. Well. Joe is. Oh no, Greg!
Oh.
Greg Waugh just spins out. Unfortunately for him, he's going to just sail right into the cones, and that is going to be very unfortunate. But in first position, it will be Christian. You have Henrik in that 4th spot. Cho will be in 3rd, and in 2nd is Igor, waiting to try and challenge that one. But I'm glad we're looking at Henrik here because he's low-key kind of just been that threat in this race. It's been kind of crazy.
Henrik has been doing really, really well throughout this competition, so super strong from Henrik, really leading the way for the Real Racing 3 lot.
Now, I was just told by production here that there has been a technical hardware issue that's been going on the floor, so we're going to try and see if we can restart the race here. Apparently, there is some flagging going down right now from some of our competitors here. It's a live environment, so things are bound to happen, and our admins will make sure that everything is sorted and everything is fair, because that is the way the competition should be. And I see some of the guys kind of waving them off there on the side there. But the start of that race did tell us a lot about what we could expect to see here on Francorchamps, because a very aggressive start across the board, no one holding anything back.
No one holding anything back, but one person who wasn't performing as well as I thought they would was Numa Natali. That's someone who the Forza community will know as TX3 Tiltanium. He's out here racing for this position in the McLaren esports team, but on Forza, not looking that strong, running in 7th position. I wonder if that's because at home he plays Forza on a controller, and here he's on a wheel and pedals.
It's you're right. That certainly can cause kind of a disruption, right? I personally play on a controller. I would like to be able to get the whole setup going, and actually, I may even jack one of these Logitech setups for my home.
Under those McLaren trophies, there's some
under
space
the
left
McLaren trophies and all the things that I've jacked here at the McLaren Technology Group. But yes, I do think that certainly can cause a little bit of an issue, right? To kind of compare it to other esports, for some viewers who may be new here, probably watching for the first time, you can compare it to fighting games, right? Playing on a fight stick is very different from playing on pads, right? On a controller.
Sure.
It's completely different experience. And that's kind of the same thing here, right? Playing on a controller versus playing with a wheel and pedals certainly changes the game, especially for Numa.
And it seems maybe it had that effect on him, so we'll see. Maybe he can collect himself with this restart. Maybe it works in his favor in a way.
Yeah, well, we will see. But now it is time to start. The grid is lit up, and it's a go in Francorchamps. Let's see who is going to rise to the occasion and claim that pole position, because right now it will be Miguel who is owning it.
Gregoire Faure here. We're on board with him. Qualifying through Real Racing 3 and getting side by side there with Numa, the fellow we were talking all about there. Forza Pro, really, but not someone who's been shining in the competition so far.
And that was an interesting turn of events there, right? Because Gregoire was preventing Numa from being able to get back onto the track, so there had to have been a collision there, or else he was going to just veer right off into the grass. That giant metal body keeping him from being able to get on back into the track here. Still, though, the action continues up at the front. You have Igor in 4th, Henrik in 3rd. I believe that was Miguel in that 2nd spot.
Bumping and grinding
Getting
there.
a little aggressive now.
Igor up the inside of Cho. He didn't want to mess around, didn't want to wait for it. Just wanted to take that 3rd position. And Christian,
and it's a collision for Igor. It's a collision for Igor, and Christian spins out as well. I cannot believe what we just saw.
How will this shake out?
They do manage to collect themselves, though, at the very least.
At the very least, Christian falling back to 3rd position. Miguel maintains the lead, so Ballesta still there doing a really strong performance here. And really, if you like, beating Numa on his home turf. Miguel, also a qualifier through Forza Motorsport 7, but somebody who's known on a whole load of different sim racing games out there.
And a big game changer for everyone on this track. Igor is in 8th position.
Wow.
One of the best drivers here in the competition at the McLaren Shadow Project, and in one of the pivotal moments here. He is currently in the lead in points. He is sitting in that 8th spot. As it stands, he will get 0 if the race ended right now. I mean, granted, we have a lot, but Igor,
off the road again, and that's more
out.
damage. You can see it appearing on the right-hand side of the screen. Igor picking up damage there.
Word.
He's going to have to pit this car. This is an appalling start for our leader.
I mean, it's at the very least, it's happening right now, right? At the start of the race, you'd want it to happen now rather than happening later on when you're in like lap 5, lap 6. So you can kind of take that to the bank and cash that check and be happy with that one. But it's still going to be very challenging for him to be able to get back into this. He's going to have to pull a Miguel X2 in order for him to climb back into this race and get some points.
That's exactly it, because now we've got a big old question that we can ask Igor Fraga. Do you have the heart to stay in the competition when things get tough? What happens when things go badly? Throw it in the pit lane, get that car sorted out, get it ready to go again, and do you have the mindset to keep putting good lap times in? And he'll definitely be able to make up some positions. He's got great pace. Hopefully he can come back from this.
In the 3-4 battle, you have Numa and Cho battling against one another here. Numa holding off Cho. As we jump over to Numa's POV, Numa, he is your Forza player here, and, well, I'm sure for him, he's not too happy to see who's in first place is Miguel, which is kind of the bane of his existence here. He kind of needs Miguel to be in Igor's spot in order for him to contend in that Forza group.
Yeah, he'll be taking something from this, though. Numa able to scrape a little bit of joy out of this event. He's been trailing a little bit, and 3rd place is a nice result for him. Cho here in 4th, and we're looking at him staring down the rear of Numa, who locks up through the top of the track there to tumble down towards Puon. That gap remains around the same. Maybe an overtake on the cards here, but Numa will have to make a little tiny error to give space for Cho.
And I will have Cho in this race going far, because he comes from that Gran Turismo space. And when you talk about these sim racers, you know, both Forza, Gran Turismo, they're so realistic, so true to the experience of driving these cars in the digital world to what they are in real life, that you kind of have to tip your hat to Cho and say, okay, this is a competition, this is a game where I will give you a slight advantage here. So Numa needs to be careful. Do not take Cho lightly, or he will pass you.
That's off the track. That's Lassie there, off the circuit, 7th place. And you can see those feet building from Gregoire behind him. So another tough result there for Lassie, but surely Hendrik is the driver from Real Racing who we all should be watching out for here. Somebody who has been doing a fantastic result in the previous races and currently running 2nd place of anybody, whipping it out there.
Henrik has been as steady as a 4-legged table in this whole tournament. There has been no doubt about it that he is just number one, the clear favorite from the Real Racing 3 group. But I would even say that he's a threat if he makes it to the finals. He will be a threat because he can win in all the games. He just needs that opportunity. That's what he has to improve upon. That's what he needs to seek out. Kind of passing and breaking through that glass ceiling that has been disrupting him from being able to get up to third, second, even first place.
You know, I'm inclined to agree with you. Henrik is someone who's a real threat for this competition. And the reason for that is that the skill gap between him and the pro iRacing drivers or rFactor drivers on rFactor might be less than the skill gap over on the tablet games like Real Racing 3 or indeed Forza Motorsport or Project Cars.
Henrik is clearly a guy who has put in the work, and you know, you can only expect that from a doctor, you know, right? So, I mean, right?
Yeah, he's a safe pair of hands.
He's studied a couple times, right? I mean, look at that. He's hitting these turns with surgical precision.
Oh.
You love to see it. You love to see it.
Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of Henrik Dew.
Well, Henrik in second place, but he will be 500 plus meters behind the first place, which is Miguel. He's kind of pulled an Igor in rFactor and has just gone with the win. Like that one.
I did. You're on a roll. You're on a roll.
I'm nailing it. I'm pretty proud of myself.
Miguel still leading this race. We're on board with Numa, though. The guy known as TX3 Titanium over on Forza Motorsport 7. And somebody looking to make up a gap that has appeared through the previous rounds between himself and his competitor for his place in the finals. That's Miguel, who's leading this race. Been difficult for Numa, but he looks like he's beginning to kind of get his rhythm back.
Yeah, exactly. Cho, though, is just waiting for the moment that he can cross him, that he can overtake Numa. Christian, who was a part of that nasty accident that happened earlier on, has been in fifth, right behind Cho, but he is, look how far back. I mean, what was that, 2,000 feet back from Cho?
Yeah, and you know, when we first jumped on board with Cho, I think Cho's attacking Numa now, so it may be worth jumping up for that battle for third. When he first overtook him, I thought Cho was going to disappear down the road, but actually Numa's held steady just in front and hasn't been able to check out from Cho. So a well-matched skills here between these two drivers.
Cho is seeking out the moment where he can exploit a mistake from Numa. He is hitting these turns aggressively and keeping himself very much on the tail of the Forza Motorsport 7 group competitor. And then Igor has finally passed Lasse, and that is going to give him 7th place. I mean, it took him 4 laps to get to 7th. 4 laps.
I don't think he'll be too upset with that. 4 laps out of 10, over half the race remaining, and Igor is back in touch with the pack, able to make up points now for the rest of the race. Keep it neat and tidy, keep it clean on the track. Don't get too aggressive, Igor, and you can make up some great points here in race number 4.
You also have to kind of bank on your opponents. You know, this Cho-Numa battle, which obviously he does not know about, but you're hoping that there's a crazy turn of events, a mistake that happens in the higher positions that will lead to some slowdown in the middle that can allow Igor to be able to get back in this race. It's a long shot, but it's something that you're hoping for. Meanwhile, at the pole position, Miguel, he's just gliding through Francorchamps here in Forza Motorsport 7.
He looks fantastic, doesn't he? Through the compression of Eau Rouge and over the crest of Radion, down that Kemmel Straight and towards Le Combe. He's really on top of that car, that big old McLaren P1 GTR. You've got to keep in mind this isn't a racing car. This isn't a car that has been out in the GT classes or raced Le Mans. This is a tribute to the F1 GTR. On the 20th anniversary of the F1 GTR winning Le Mans 24, they brought out this car. It's kind of a track toy for for the ultimate McLaren fans. Really cool piece of machinery, but a little bit heavier perhaps than some race cars out there.
It's a very expensive track toy. I got to talk to my manager and see if I can put that in my contract next time. Can I get a P1 GTR?
Yeah, you got your dictaphone out. Idea for a rider.
P1 GTR, thank you. Oh, wait a minute now. As we go to that third, fourth battle between Numa and Cho. Cho getting very close to him. Look at that there, just a couple feet separating these two competitors as Numa has to play defense here, or else Cho will take advantage. He's riding the slipstream behind him. Can he gain that extra speed?
I always think of the sort of fire triangle when I look at these things. You know, you got the fuel, you got the oxygen. You just have to wait for that spark to light things off. These two looking like there's going to be an almighty battle for third. It's just been very, very patient so far. Neither of these drivers wanting to make a move just yet. Only lap 5 of 10. There's plenty more race to go. And I think one of them is going to make their move toward the end.
When does Cho, if at all, takes that opportunity to make the move? How does he do it, right? Like, what are you looking for in that instance, Ali?
I mean, here we are, back of the track, going through Blanchimont and towards the final chicane. And you can see Cho, they'll both have to brake very heavily as we go into it. That'll be a point when really it's easier to overtake around this track. It's an easier overtaking opportunity. So I think that'll be the one that Cho will probably pick, unless Numa makes a mistake.
Well, as it currently stands, Numa still has control of third place, and Cho did not look to dive onto the chicane, but all the way in the back, it's Igor. Igor is fighting to get back in this race, to get those points, and every point that he gains, every position that he gains gives him more in the overall point total and keeps him very much in the lead of that Logitech G group.
You know what's good news for Igor Fraga right now? It's that on this track, Miguel Ballesta's winning. He's miles away, he's gone.
Yeah.
Disappeared, checked out. But just in front of Igor is Christian Kwiatkowski, his big rival in the Logitech qualifier. So the person who could replace him potentially in the final is just up the road from him. I say just, 4,000 feet isn't just, it's a long old way.
Yeah.
But there's only 1 point between.
This is the guy that Igor needs to pass. Everything else doesn't matter. It's about Christian. If he can gain on Christian and pass him in these next 5 laps, or 4 laps I should say, which you look at the distance, he has to make up 2,150 feet before he can get to Christian, before he can even get near him. This needs to be a very clean race. Now, another thing that a lot of people are talking about in the comment section right now are the race lines. We do want to let people know, and I think I just heard a crash there. A crash from Cho! That is big!
Unbelievable. He was chasing down Numa, trying to get that podium, and pushed a little bit too hard. You see him lighting up the rear tires there. He's furious with himself, furious with the car. Unbelievable. Pushing a bit too hard, perhaps, Cho.
Oh, man. And, I was actually going to talk about the assist that you have here with the racing line, because a lot of people in the chat are actually talking about the racing lines being on. They will not be on in the finals.
No.
So, I mean, for one, you might as well just turn the darn thing off. But, I think for the semifinals, it kind of makes sense because a lot of these competitors come from different games. They don't really, know and understand, like, all the mechanics of it. So you're kind of learning on the fly. But in the finals, you got to know what you're doing. Everything, you throw caution to the wind, and you need to perform.
I just want to call out that Miguel Ballesta just gave us a thumb up on the straight in his little cam. Cool dude. He knows all about what's going to go down here. He's absolutely thrashing it out there. Absolutely right. No racing line in the finals, so I wouldn't have a chance. Sadly, I guess I'll withdraw my
Well, I play with a controller, so I would have never even had an opportunity.
Dagnabbit.
Feels bad, man.
Feels
right. Bad, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so Igor, does he do it? This is so much ground to gain against Christian, but he's still getting points, right? He's still going to earn points for this one, and there's one more race, which will happen in Project Cars 2.
Yeah, I don't think this is over at all. I think maybe if Igor can overtake Christian, which is a pretty big ask if I'm honest, there's a big old gap between them, then Christian might be in a lot of trouble. Christian Kwiatkowski might be in a lot of trouble going into the final race in Project Cars. Will kind of require Igor to really mess up.
Oh.
At the same time, if things end as they are, I just think it's going to be a close final race, and I love that. Everything's coming down to the wire here at the McLaren Shadow Project.
And we also don't know how the adjudication will play out, too. Right? That's another big part of the process, and I'm sure the refs in the back are looking at everything. But is Christian spinning out, losing a little control of this car here? Is this big old P1 GTR giving him some trouble?
Just looking over here, he's a big old sigh from Christian. He's trying to recenter himself, splash a bit of that sort of mental cold water on his face, and say, oh, come on. Let's get back in this. Let's remember how to drive. Let's keep the car in the right place. Losing a bit of time perhaps to Igor behind, 2,700 feet at last glance. Although it's difficult to tell how that changes as there are straight bits of the track where the feet gets bigger. There are tight bits of the track where the feet get smaller. At concertinas.
And Miguel is kind of questioning something here, and I'm genuinely curious as to what's going on his end. But I think he's just going to have to keep going here as we're so far into the race.
Right, something up there. The car looking like it's still heading around the track quite nicely, so we should be all right for our race leader. Big old question mark though right now as Miguel tries to get his head back in the game.
Something has happened to Miguel currently, and trying to figure out what's going on here.
He's dropping back through the field. That's a disaster for Miguel. Falls back to second now.
What is going on?
Huge letdown.
Something is afoot currently, as Christian's going to be out of it as well.
Unbelievable. Christian in the pits right now, repairing some damage. This race is really changing very dramatically on lap number 8 of 10. Current race leader is Henrik. The Real Race 3 qualifier. And second position show.
I'll be very honest with you guys, a lot of questions over here in the booth, right? Don't quite understand what's going on, but Christian has pitted. Igor has gotten that 5th place spot, and Christian's going to be in 7th. Miguel, something is going on his end here. We haven't really seen his perspective to know what the deal is, but Igor is now in 4th.
That's right, Igor up to 4th position. You've got to keep in mind, Miguel, this is a dip for him, but bear in mind that his championship, if you like, his day of racing is actually going pretty nicely. He's up ahead of Numa pretty nicely, and he will be able to take from this race maybe less points, maybe nil points, but he'll be able to collect what he's had previously, go into the last race today with probably an advantage over his competition, and that's Numa Natali.
Yeah, and at the very least, that is the thing that Miguel can be happy with, is that he has so many points in the Forza group between him and Numa that in Project Cars 2 he should be all right. But I was just told in the back that because we had passed the first lap, at that point it's the point of no return. Right. So we are continuing on with the race, and I'm sure that we will get some information from the team in the back, and they will inform us of what is going on. For right now, though, we have to carry on with the action. And Henrik, who has already established himself as a clear pack leader in the Real Racing 3 group, has been owning this race. And a little wiggle coming out of that turn there.
Yeah.
But he should be all right. And Igor is in 4th spot. Christian has gotten back into 5th. This is exactly what Igor would want.
That's right, that was that pit stop from Christian, which would have given Igor the position. You're absolutely right. I was thinking, how did he sneak through? Didn't call it at the time, but Christian Kwiatkowski having to pit during the race, maybe picking up some damage out there on the track somewhere, and deciding to run through the pit lane, get some repairs, comes out behind Igor Fraga.
Just a little bit more remaining in this race here in Francorchamps. 1 lap in Forza Motorsport 7. Henrik has to be careful. That car is getting wobbly. It is getting very, very dicey for Henrik. And Cho in second place. Now, Cho getting some points here.
Yeah, massive for Cho.
That is really big. If he's able to get some solid points, he jumps right back into this race.
That's Fraga off the track, pulled over to the side as well. Something up with Igor Fraga right now. So a couple of these races having a difficult time here in the closing stages of Spa. Real shame to see. After all of them have put so much heart into this race, I've got to say, it's always a shame to see things lose out like this. Keep in mind there is a pit stop mandated by the race rules. So these drivers will need to throw that car into the pit lane if they haven't already. You can see a missed quick pit stop penalty there for Henrik, who currently sits in the lead of this race.
Yeah, I mean, this has certainly been a very interesting turn of events here. And once again, I do want to know what the rulings are going to be here, because there's just a lot of question marks, at least on our end, as to what's been taking place currently. Right, we are just simply, like everyone else at home, we are simply just the observers of this one, calling the action. But man, all the drama, all the intrigue, this is just, and Henrik needs to be careful.
Limp it home, Henrik. You can do it. Just bring that car in. It's the closing stage of this race. We get a quick replay of that slide off, and he can do this. 1 lap remaining. Now, as we head through the top of the circuit, Spa describes this beautiful arc up the hill through Eau Rouge and the Camel Straight, and then downhill, tumbling through Pouhon and the back of the circuit. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the world. If you have the chance to go visit it, I strongly recommend it. Sponsored by the Tourist Board of Belgium.
Yeah, Ali just lives right there. Right, you may see Ali just standing around in the forest.
Each and every one of you is invited around for a cup of tea
at his backyard, at his personal backyard.
My personal backyard.
By the way, Numa's going to get a lot of points for this one as well. And the race is almost over. In that second spot will be Numa. Henrik in the first position. So close to ending this one out.
If I've ever seen a race that's going to go to adjudication, it's this one right here.
Oh yeah, we're going to be here for a century.
You can look forward to that. Yep. Crossing the line. Henrik, I think, has put a strong performance in here. I wonder about the 0 stops of 1, whether or not that's going to hurt him in the adjudication process afterwards. But it hasn't taken a pit stop, is what I'm saying.
Very true. And we're going to go into that final turn here on Francorchamps for Henrik, who throughout the Shadow Project by McLaren he's honestly just been great. He's been keeping it together, and this win, we'll see how this pans out after the adjudication process, but that will be the end of that one, as Henrik will take the top crown, first place. Numa not too far behind from him, should be able to end this race out, and then Cho behind him as well.
A difficult race for many of those drivers. It's not great to see in some ways, because you know they all come here with a strong competitive mindset. They want to bring their A game out there. So very difficult to see a few of them slipping out there.
And that is going to be the conclusion of Forza Motorsport 7. And oh boy, a lot to take away from that one. Seems like it was damage to the vehicles that ended up causing some of those issues. But man, I mean, I think when you talk about the adjudication process, I mentioned it's going to take forever. I do want to get a number onto that one. I mean, I got a flight to catch back home to New York, and I imagine we're going to be here for a solid couple weeks now, Ali. What do you have? You don't have anything planned, right?
I have nothing planned. I have actually an RV just outside that I can brew some coffee in, and yeah, I mean, we can get back to old Le Mans times.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, we can go back to the hot box that was Le Mans, but anyway. Well, let's take a look at some of the highlights there from that race and what we saw. I mean, there were some crazy moments, some collisions that had occurred. So as soon as we can, we're going to jump into the action here. But yes, this race just brought a lot of drama.
It was a huge amount of drama.
Drama alert.
I think there was, there was some folks out there putting down some very classy driving indeed. You want to see that rewarded if at all possible. I'm talking there, of course, about Miguel Ballester, someone who led this race from the start and really dominated it. Had good composition, good stability on track. Didn't look like he was really being challenged by anybody else. So a little bit later on, it's a shame to see him slipping out.
I genuinely want to know what in God's green earth happened, because I was just all manners of confused. And look at that collision. And before all the things started to happen, before all the things and the stuff, I want to give a huge shout out to Igor, because he clawed back into this race.
Brilliant.
Collision after collision. It did not look good for Igor, but he made the pit stop. And then from there, he had to get to work, and the Brazilian did just that.
I mean, you called it. You called it. It was, you know, like he was saying, Igor had to put in that Miguel Ballester performance. Had to keep himself composed, get himself back on track, and push. It's what he did, and it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, just fighting through all of the different positions there. And it was him versus Christian, but Christian was so far ahead before Christian ended up having that incident with his vehicle. And then Cho, another one that had some ups and downs this race, ending in that third position overall, but it did not look good. And then Lasse really has not been able to put anything together here, and you know, you hate to see it happen, but I'm sure for him, he's learning a lot from this experience, Ali.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, someone self-described as a casual gamer, somebody who's been very, very dominant on Real Racing 3, but hasn't perhaps been able to convert that to the other games we've seen today. Same time, it's a massive win for him to even be out here, to be here at the McLaren Technology Center, racing his heart out and having a great time with some of the world's top drivers.
Yeah, indeed. And then we go back over to Cho, the driver from Japan, who has a lot of experience in the sim racing, just not in the games that he's playing here today. But don't let that fool you, because when he needs to take a risk, when he wants to dive and tackle that opportunity, he goes for it. He goes for it. Physics be darned. He does not care. He is just going to fly for that moment.
Yeah, flying sometimes, as you say, in the face of physics. But it's actually the moments of brilliance that we see from Cho that show how good a driver he is. Every now and again, you'll see him put in this incredible lap time, or start challenging somebody who you really think he shouldn't be attacking. And then there is a little moment, a little lapse in concentration, where he'll just slip off the track, make a big mistake, and it'll cost him everything.
Gregoire, not the best of races for the Frenchman. Igor passed him, and that was step 2 of getting back into this Forza Motorsport 7 race.
He seemed so locked, right? He seemed so locked in after the pit stop, able to just hammer it down.
And then Numa, you needed Numa to have a big showing here as well, right, because he's been struggling all day today. So for that, for him to be able to get that second place spot, I'm sure he's going to be very happy with that one.
He will, exactly. And there's a little bit, there's more than a little bit of pride in there, isn't there? It's his game, it's his territory. You know, Forza Motorsport 7, one of the qualifiers through the Forza event. So yeah, slipping off. And there's the moment we none of us knew what was going on, to be honest. And sounds like car damage forced Ballester off the track. Very difficult to see.
And I'm wondering where that car damage came from, because he was running a very, very clean race. I don't know.
Quite agree. I'm
hit a
not
pebble?
entirely sure.
Was there a bird on the track? Was there a goat?
Did he do one of those things where like you walk down the stairs and suddenly you just like twist your ankle? Suddenly your ankle just goes,
toe.
Oh, maybe he stubbed his
This was like the equivalent of stubbing one's toe. But, you know, I know that we're kind of harping on this situation with Miguel, right? He's still going to be okay, despite Numa.
And that's why I'm able to joke about it. I mean, otherwise, yeah, if it was competition ending for him, yeah, awful. But actually, he's put in such a sterling performance so far in the previous 3 rounds. As you say, competition is by no means over. He's still dominating against the other Forza Motorsport 7 competitors.
Competitor, which is Numa.
There you go.
That's it. That's all he has to go up against. And yes, Numa did have a second place finish here, but that will simply not be enough for him to overtake Miguel in the leaderboard, which we will get that information later on and see what happens in the adjudication. There was some collisions in the beginning as well. There was some contact. How will that play a role into this? Also for us, you know, the penalty of pitting, was that going to be a factor here, right? Like, these are questions that we have, and obviously our officials in the back are going to be sorting through all that information there. But there goes your final placements. And Henrik, your Real Racing 3 group member, will take first place in Forza Motorsport 7 in the race.
Yeah.
Will it happen? Will that be the case in the leaderboards post-adjudication?
And I've got to say, if it holds up, if he keeps this after adjudication, Henrik has absolutely dominated the other Real Racing 3 competitors. Sure, he was a favourite coming into it, but you don't ever expect to see somebody win by this amount. Truly stunning performance from him.
Yeah, just a slobber knocker of a showing from...
What?
You like that one?
I don't know
You
what
like
it
that
is.
one.
I'm not going to Google it. You guys shouldn't feel obliged to either.
Fan, I had to fit a JR term in there, you know. So just want to remind everyone at home that the adjudication process is still going on right now, and we want to know what you guys think. So make sure you use that hashtag McLaren Shadow. Let us know your thoughts in the Twitterverse. So go for it, right? I guess you know that's
sure.
the thing. All right. So while we wait for the results of the race, let's actually have a look at what happened when Black Panther, who you've seen here tonight, had exclusive access to look around this beautiful place, the McLaren headquarters.
Welcome to the McLaren Technology Center. I've never actually been here. It's freaking huge. Look at it. It's amazing. So why are we here? You're like, am I picking up a McLaren? No, unfortunately not. No, that one over there. I don't know if you can see. That's my McLaren. We're here with Meadow.
Hello.
And yeah, so this building is absolutely insane. I've never been here, but we're here for the McLaren Shadow Project. As you know, tomorrow is the semi-finals. I'm super excited. Are you?
I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
So basically, we get a full tour of the whole place today. We can take you guys absolutely everywhere for this, and I'm going to be a part of an esports thing, which is pretty cool actually. So apparently, if you didn't know, the water is used to like heat and cool the building.
It's used to cool the building. Yeah.
What? It's so weird because I've never, well, I've seen it on videos, but I've never actually like been. Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. It's surreal.
It's surreal. Surreal would be a good word. So we're now on the inside, which is
amazing.
Really quiet actually. It's really bright over there, so you can't actually see. But this, if only. Oh my god. Do you want one?
Yes, please.
It suits you. Look, you've got the green. You came ready.
This is my car.
Now these are a bunch of cars I have no idea about whatsoever, but they're cool to look at, which is always nice. Do you want to try one, Meadow?
This one.
You can try this one. So yeah, as I said, I have no idea about any of these, but what I do have an idea about is the cool paint stuff going on behind it. Let's have a look. I'm always like, how much can I actually show? But they're painting things. The MSO, you know, the specific McLaren colour that they make to order. It's amazing. There's some interesting colours in there. One that looks like my car, but mine's a wrap. Couldn't get anything for the price of a wrap here, I don't think. Next up is like my favourite McLaren. As you probably know, the P1, my favourite, hypercar in general, just as a McLaren. We have one right here in incredible colour. Are we allowed to film this? I don't know. It's on display, so I'm going to assume it is. Doesn't it just look so aggressive at the back? I love it. So behind me is a lot of money. We're kind of matching.
We both came matching today.
It's a little bit, yeah, we came matching.
One for you, one for me.
So I'll have this one.
Okay, I'll have the
you
other
have the
one.
other one. That green one was actually the one that set the world speed record. Next up, we have a car that I don't think I'd ever be able to fit in. But Meadow, you could actually fit in that, I think.
How? How did a grown man fit in this car?
It's tiny, but it's the coolest thing ever. I want one. How much? It's probably a lot of money for one of these.
I don't know how I would fit in this.
No?
No, it looks too small even for like...
You could fit in that. If you take the thing off, your
well,
neck...
that's what they said. They said for him to get in, they had to take the whole top piece off.
Your neck would fit between there. That's the like indent bit. And then your head would sit in there. And so it turns out that the Queen is actually a fan of McLaren's as well. She actually has a cool car collection, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. She actually opened this building, it says.
I want to be friends with the Queen. All the way down here is just trophy. It's insane how many there actually are. They go all the way through here. There's like a bajillion different Alienware boxes of them using monitors and computers and, you know, the best stuff. And then upstairs, so behind me is like where it's like a big light room. That's what has been described to me as, but whispering because someone's doing profile shots over there. I don't know if you can see, but it's so cool. We should probably ask if I can do some profile shots over there. We'll try it for the vlog. That'll be fun.
That would be so cool.
Even more behind the scenes. That's what I like about these projects, that I get to see this, but I get to share it with you on this, because normally I don't get to show this kind of stuff, because I guess I'd be more part of it, and but they don't want the behind the scenes stuff, and it's just something different.
Yeah, but they might as well tell you what to look. It's not even.
It looks like I have no idea. Like my setup, I wouldn't say I've got the most simple of setups, but geez Louise. So when we actually build a house, we should make it this cool. Like have a light room,
Yes,
like
please.
a studio area. This, you should control this. Like that would be you.
Me?
Yeah, you control everything. I just do the talking.
Ooh,
Be
okay, I
amazing.
can do that.
No editing, all live action. So these are the sleds that they're using. They're setting up on the actual stage. Logitech G wheel, Sparco branded seats. It's actually the whole rail. That's pretty cool. Look at the. Ooh. Well, this would be nice. How's the?
You want one of those?
I could do with one because I don't actually have a seat like this.
Nope.
Does anyone want to hit me up? You know, that'll be great. I don't want to distract the drivers that are doing the driving, but they're practicing behind, which is pretty cool. Beanbag area looks very nice. Very, very basic. A lot of this is very like clean and clinical, but I don't want to distract them. They look like they're doing pretty well. The advantage of like being around here while it's being set up, this wasn't here before. McLaren Shadow, very cool. And they're even doing it on the car, which was actually here, but I didn't hear it start up, so they must have just rolled it. Should get that sticker on one of my cars, do you think?
Yeah.
McLaren Shadow.
Yes.
I don't have a McLaren yet.
Look down. Plug it back in. Look up now. Wicked, that was like almost perfect. One more time.
So we're about to jump on the sleds and give it a go exactly what they're going to be playing tomorrow, by the way. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. 7 PM UK time tomorrow, that is. We're going to jump into the P1 GTR on Forza Motorsport 7, and if you can beat my lap time, you can win some awesome prizes. McLaren Shadow hat, hoodie, t-shirt, copy of Forza Motorsport 7, tickets to the final in January, and a tour of the McLaren Technical Centre, and obviously flights and accommodation for those. So, to win those prizes, all you have to do is beat my time that I'm about to set on Forza Motorsport 7. As I said, exactly what the race is going to be doing tomorrow. When you beat your time using videos, I would like to do some videos. Tweet them at McLaren Shadow on Twitter, and we'll go through and pick a winner. Let's go play. Okay. Here's the sled. What happens if I like win and beat? I'm better than the actual drivers. Do I potentially go on the show tomorrow? I've now got to actually do that. This is actual attempt number 1. I won't just put my foot down this time. It's been a while. Alright, here we go. First try. Totally first try. I have no idea how, it's just holding like a pro right next to me. Just not even flinching. Whereas I've done the same again. This is gonna swing again. We got a 231. Which is great. It's probably actually much better than everyone else here. 231 is the time to beat on Spa-de-Francorchamps with the McLaren P1 GTR on Forza Motorsport 7. And once you beat that time, which won't take very long, you can then tweet it at McLaren Shadow. Okay, that pretty much wraps up today. The preparation, they're still working hard. I'm going back to edit this video for you guys to know about everything. So as I said, everything's going to be down below in the description when it comes to the competition and when it comes to the event tomorrow at 7 p.m. UK time. Don't miss it. I'll be disappointed. I'll be covering it on stories on social media, my social media, the McLaren Shadow social media. This is a cool building, so I wanted to end it here. So thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you tomorrow. Peace.
You know, following the hijinks of Black Panther is actually pretty awesome. And if you haven't subscribed to him yet, you totally should, because it's pretty clearly he's good. He's a good storyteller.
Yeah,
you know, diving behind the scenes and stuff. A little jealous he got to do all that cool stuff, right? You know, but not jealous of his performance in Francorchamps. So
I'm in awe of anyone who does 50 laps with Goliath over on Horizon 4. That's nuts.
very true.
Doing.
Very true. So we just want to let everyone know that that race was a messy one on Forza Motorsport 7. I think that goes without saying. It was a little bit of a rough one, and the adjudication process is still going on right now, even as our competitors are doing their qualifications for our final game, which is Project Cars 2. And that adjudication process is going on behind me right now. That's actually where they are, and they're going to bring it back. It looks kind of the same, but you know, they're back there getting ready, looking at all the replays, doing the math, which I don't have any technical ability. The Bronx educational system failed me horrendously.
Adjudication 101, did you take it?
I just don't know math, honestly. But we're getting a little glimpse there.
It's nice to see, you know, behind the kimono a little bit with
the
you know, it's
phrase I never thought I would have heard.
There it was.
Behind the kimono.
It was nice to see, yeah, behind the scenes, if you like, with adjudication. And
behind
what
the
kimono
sounds a little sounds a little naughty.
A
little schnauzy.
You're just mulling that over.
You know, a little Sean
second.
Connery schnauzy.
I was going to give more depth. Let's tangent over there. Let's
just go in that direction.
They have feeds of all the different drivers as they go around the track. So they get to see what they're doing, what their control inputs are. They get to see everything the drivers are getting up to. And they can make a judgment about whether or not a move was intentional. They can look for that, whether or not there's purpose behind it. But they can also look for what the consequences of moves were.
Yeah.
Rewind, look at replays, all that stuff, and all their maths, as you know, adds up to penalty or not.
All the kimonos. All the kimonos. All right. Well, you know what?
I had a whole PowerPoint. I had a thing.
It's been a rough time for Ali, but it was also a rough time for one of our other competitors, and that was Miguel. Let's actually have a look back at him in some more happier times.
Soy Miguel Ballester, tengo 24 años, vengo de Málaga, España, y soy un clasificado de Forza Motorsport 7. Pues nada, yo empecé a competir en el Sim Racing a partir de 2013 con la GT Academy. El Sim Racing está creciendo de una manera increíble y tengo muchas ganas de seguir así. Son muchas horas de entreno, hay mucho nivel, somos más de medio millón de participantes y hay que entrenar todos los simuladores, coger el límite a cada juego y ya te digo, ¿no? Ha sido muy duro, pero así me he preparado y aquí estamos para intentar ganar.
Miguel has a very long history competing in sim racing, and it is shown, even though the Forza conclusion was not what he wanted, he has been formidable throughout the entirety of the McLaren Shadow Project.
You know, I had to go down and chat to Miguel and to Christian as well. One of the first ever series that I commentated was those two guys battling it out.
Really?
A few years ago, yeah, in Seat. Yeah, it was fun, that. So it's nice to see him back out here still at each other's throats behind the wheel after all this time.
Hey,
yeah.
Right? You know, some things never change.
Right, exactly.
Right. So the adjudication process still going on in the back here, folks, as I'm sure you are all wondering at home where things are going to fall. And I believe the qualifications for Project Cars 2 have concluded. We'll make sure we find out where they're going to place in the grid in just a little bit. So there is some time to fill here, but what a day it has been. Just so many close calls, a lot of intense races. And yeah, I myself, having come from, I would say, a majority of FPS esports, really can just appreciate the poise and the composure that these competitors have had throughout the day, because it has been rough, right? There's just been a lot of hurdles thrown at them, whether it's playing in games that they're not familiar with, or even with input styles that they're not familiar with, whether it's, you know, being a controller player but playing with a steering wheel or playing on an iPad. This has been a true test of endurance for these 8 gentlemen.
I mean, imagine how difficult it is to get to a pro level at one game, just one.
Yeah.
And then this competition asks you what, to race in 5?
Yeah.
It's nuts. You know, every driver out there will have their skill set and the games that they prefer, the games they're faster on, but it's all about how they shine in the ones they're not so good at. The start of the day, you know, we're only talking about Igor and Christian and Miguel as the winners of those races. As we move in through it, the real racing guys, you know, we're looking at Henrik coming up through the field and taking lots of race wins. So it's really anyone's game here. And I'm super excited to see the leaderboard when we can see it.
And this is what the McLaren esports team wants, a player that can be diverse across a variety of titles. That is why the competition is set up the way that it is. And that is what these 8 drivers are going toward, what they're vying for, a spot on the McLaren esports team. Very prestigious opportunity.
Amazing.
It is given a lot of individuals opportunities that they could not even fathom. What is it? The gentleman who won last year, the name is slipping.
Rudy Van Buren.
Rudy Van Buren. He goes on to be a sim racer for McLaren, testing all the new things that are coming down the pipeline. That is crazy, right? To just have that opportunity. I can't even imagine.
Amazing, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. And, you know, the other drivers in the team, you know, all set up. They're very, very fast drivers indeed. They'll be joining. So it's super cool. It's just awesome. I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to like say something clever about it really, but it's not, I don't have to be clever about it at all because it's just so cool.
Yeah.
And it's a very, as you say, prestigious, very selective as well. Not very many people get asked to do this.
Yeah,
There's
a
not
lot
many
of people
opportunities.
tried for this. A lot of people competed for this right here, you know, so this is the cream of the crop in their respective groups. Something also that you want to highlight here is where we are currently, which is the McLaren headquarters, a place that I personally never thought that I would ever step foot in. So I think, you know, that in itself has been such a wild experience. We saw Black Panther's video as he was walking around the McLaren headquarters. You and I had a chance to do that as well. And I know for you, it was like a kid in a candy shop, just seeing all these legendary cars, because we also got to see cars that the public don't get a chance to see as well, and that was super cool.
And you should get a chance to see them. That's unfair from McLaren. That's deeply unfair. Everyone should get a chance. That should be a museum. It
really should.
I've just been, you know, out on holiday, went to see the Met over in New York, and there's some lovely artifacts in there, but I want to go to the McLaren Museum. I want to go see all that stuff.
Yes, also just a small note there, Ali was in New York, didn't give me a call. Broke my heart, made me feel like lesser of a man, even if I wasn't there, right? Because I was off being a global icon somewhere else. You know, you can still toss a brother a call. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. I just went to your house and took a selfie in front of it. I was like,
just, you know, there's a girl right here. So yes, and that is where we are, right? This very interesting venue, because also there's the crazy white walls that are like all around this place. It's like literally a giant circle, which has been really weird, right?
It's an awesome place, and the setting has just changed the way that these drivers has approached their racing, I think. Everything is teed into it. It feels so scientific here, right?
Yeah.
It feels like everyone's in a lab being looked at, you know, like broken down into little test tubes, like at the end of like Akira.
Kimonos, test tubes, mathematics. We've run through, I think we did birth earlier on as well. There's just a lot of things that are going on. But we do want to let you know what's going on. Behind us is the adjudication. And the good news is, did get word from production in the back that we're almost there. Almost. I know you wanted me to say that we are there, and I think like if I had to give it a percentage, I would probably say like 92%.
92?
Yeah, 92.
92.5? I
think
think
that's
there are
92.
decimals in there, or?
Yeah, you know, wait, yeah, no, 93. Okay, we're moving.
Nice.
We're moving. Oh, wait, 93.4. Okay, so we're moving little by little. All right, we're getting to the completion of the adjudication for that Forza Motorsport race, which, if you missed, by the way, was insane. So many things took place. There was a stoppage in the beginning. There was car damage. There was collisions. There were just, oh my goodness, I can't even begin to wrap my head around everything. There was just so much going on. Now, also, another thing that we got to talk about was the rule set as well, because a lot of people, you know, I'm sure are wondering about this. We did touch on it in the race. The rule set confirms that after the first lap completes, you go on with the race. Right? So unless something happens within that first lap, like it did when we had the hardware malfunction, you continue on with the race and complete it. And that, I'm sure, is going to come out in the adjudication as well.
And you know, this has a real life analog. Cars do break down out there on the track. You know, racing cars, motorsport fans, I'm sure everyone's watching, has seen a little bit of motorsport from time to time. Cars don't always make it to the end of the race.
No.
And it's unfair. It doesn't feel good. It never does. But there we have an analog for that in sim racing, and that's, you know, things like this, moments when people have to retire from the race. The hope is that it works out over the season, that everyone has the same amount of good luck and bad luck. But again, that's into the fate of the racing overlords who look down upon all of us and pull the strings.
Overlords, kimonos, we're just keeping track of here. And whatever this was. Well, now it is time to find out where everything lies. Let's send it over to Nikki, who's over at the main stage.
Right, okay, so the scores are in. Oh, my heart breaks, though, for some of those. Igor and Miguel, it was a bit of a tough one, wasn't it? Unfortunately, as the adjudication goes, neither of them have, well, they've actually managed to score a point each, but they didn't finish the race. Now, that is a consequence of all the damage that was caused on their cars. Igor, he actually span out. He made contact with the car in one of the corners and basically broke his left suspension steering and had problems with his right brake. So unfortunately, damage out of their control, irreparable. He did try to pit, but it didn't pay off. So he's only taken 1 point. And then Miguel, he had damage to the fuel tank, so also 1 point. So really, the tables have turned. If we look at the race results, we've got Henrik in first. Oh, we're moving on to the leaderboard. So if we look at the Logitech League, we've got Christian there with 19 points, but Igor closely behind with 18, so those two are still battling it out at the top. Then Real Racing 3, we've got Henrik on 24, Gregor on 11, and then Forza 7, Miguel on 16, and Numa on 9. So it's Henrik that's looking like the driver with the most points at the moment. Now, we do actually have a little bit of the footage of Miguel's crash, so let's take a little look. So what's up next? It is time for Project Cars 2. Let's have a look and find out what it's all about.
The final race of the day takes us to Milan for the Italian Monza circuit on Project Cars 2. This 3.59-mile circuit has 11 turns with plenty of straight roads, perfect for overtaking. Slipstreaming will definitely be the racer's friend on this track. There's a total of 10 laps, giving everyone multiple chances to battle for those higher positions. But the question is, can the drivers make the most of those high-speed corners?
Well, it's looking good. Now over to Alex and Ali to take us through the race.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Yes, so interesting turn of events that we have here. The Logitech division opened wide open, just wide out, right?
Yeah.
Like this,
Awesome.
It is anyone's ball game at this point in time. Meanwhile, in the Real Racing 3 side, that win that Henrik got in Forza Motorsport 7 pretty much locks him. And
beautiful.
To be frank, he is a threat going into the finals. But the story for me has to be what's going on in the Forza Motorsport 7 league. Because if Numa is able to get first place, he will move on to the finals.
I can see the cogs turning. I can see the little graphs.
If not, I'm like doing math and this is me. Like,
that's right. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Because he gets 8 points if he wins.
One needs to get to the top, one needs to get to the bottom. That means that even if Numa succeeds,
that's true, because Miguel needs to.
He's relying on Miguel to do badly. There's nothing he can do apart from his best out there, Numa. Put it down, lay it out there on track, put everything into it, and hope that it turns out for the best for him.
That's right. So we're going to find out when we jump into the action in just a little bit. But the game, as mentioned, will be Project Cars 2. And we do have the qualifying phase that is going on right now. So we can kind of talk over this one casually, give you some gameplay. I know you guys want to see more of our beautiful faces, and I don't blame you, but I want to see more gameplay. And here's some Project Cars 2. So,
it's not
haven't really seen this game, but you're very familiar with this title, Ali. Kind of break it down for me. What kind of separates this game from the likes of Forza Motorsport 7, iRacing, etc.?
Sure. I mean, I think for Forza Motorsport, something you'll find is, especially in the differentials, we're going to get a bit nerdy here, so bear with me, but the differentials of the car, there's a bit of a spin there for Igor, and maybe a little bit more forgiving, so as you go down through the gears, you can be quite aggressive with your downshift in braking zones, compared to Project Cars 2, where maybe the differential will lock up more readily. You're going to have to worry a little bit more about when you choose your downshift moments and how much speed you're carrying into a corner. It can be a lot more punishing in that respect. There's also, though, I think chassis flex is modeled very differently in Project Cars to maybe some other titles, like iRacing you're talking about there, where the cars can feel quite stiff, I think, on Project Cars 2. And that's one of the features of the game. I'm not trying to sit here and say one's more realistic than another. I have not driven a McLaren 720S around Monza, so I can't speak to that. But there are some different features in the game, and you do get some lovely Michael Bay-style lens flare in the Spectate as well, which I'm all in for.
Yeah,
sold.
You're all about the lens flare. Listen here, Mike. When J.J. Abrams busted that out in Star Trek, I was a little perturbed, I wasn't really feeling it, okay? But maybe I'll like it here in Project Cars 2.
You're coming around to it?
Maybe I'll enjoy it, that's what I'm hoping for. So right now we're taking a look at the qualification process. If you're just joining us here, welcome everyone to the McLaren Shadow Project, where we brought 8 competitors through 3 different leagues. The Real Racing 3 League, a game that takes place on mobile. Then you have the Forza Motorsport 7 League. And then you also have the Logitech G League. These competitors are now going to be battling it out in our final game, which is Project Cars 2. It has gotten to this point. It is neck and neck in the Logitech G League. Real Racing 3 has been locked up by Henrik. At this point, it's a victory lap for him. And then on the other end of the Forza Motorsport 7, perfect races and perfect failures need to happen in order for certain people to make it to the final, Ali.
And while the guys finish off this qualifying session, let's find out a little bit more about our final competitor.
I'm Christian Kwietniewski. I'm from Poland, but I was born in Madrid, and I won the Logitech G Challenge on Paris with Project Cars 2. My dream when I was young is become a driver. Then I do a simulator of when I was 15 years, and this is my dream. Very few drivers can drive in McLaren centers, the dream of all gamers. My favorite part of this technology center, the Ayrton Senna car, so I take a photo and I'm so happy with this. The pure of happiness to be here. For me, the passion of the simulation is become a real racing driver.
And there you hear from Christian, and storyline here has been Christian versus Igor. We saw it in Forza Motorsport 7. It's even been reflected in the leaderboard. They are within a point of one another. Christian in the lead. It all comes down to this. Who is going to represent the Logitech G League going in to the final for the McLaren Shadow Project?
Hasn't it? It's been so competitive across all these many rounds.
Yeah.
It's almost a shame to bring just one, isn't it?
I totally agree. because there's so much talent out there.
Right, and you want to be, you want to have that thing in your pocket that's sort of like, oh, and you lost out, but it was by such a small amount. Here you go. Here's that prize that gets you into the final.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work like that. You have to win on points, and only one of them will make it through.
Yeah, very, very rough. And let's actually take a look at the leaderboard one more time here so everyone can kind of get reacquainted with what we saw earlier. And then that will prepare us for Project Cars 2, because Christian in the Logitech G League, as we mentioned, is 1 point ahead of Igor. No matter what Cho does, he is going to be out of it. Then you have Real Racing 3's Henrik, that is just in Comfort City. He is feeling great, 24 points. And then where the real action is going to take place is Miguel and Numa. I know there's a battle there between Christian and Igor, but Miguel and Numa, both, one needs to have the perfect race, the other needs to have the worst race of his life. Wonder if that's even a possibility.
You almost don't want to see it, right? Because Miguel's been so good across all the races. It would feel like Numa was just sneaking in there.
I know. Well, I know everyone's excited to jump into our final race of the day, Project Cars 2. Let's see how all this closes out. Who is going to move on to the finals and represent their respective league, Ali?
Yeah, it all comes down to this, and it's going to be Igor versus Christian. That's what we're going to be looking for. Miguel snuck in there, though, in second position, so he's going to be starting from that first row on the grid, and then further down, we've mentioned it slightly, Numa up against his rival Miguel. Those two, a big old difference between them, because Numa's right at the back, and Miguel, we already talked about it, but on that front row.
Yeah, that is going to be very, very rough there for him. But all right, here we go, folks. The final race for the semifinals of the McLaren Shadow Project. And a little bit of a early start there from Gregoire. That is not good. And a bump as well from last. I mean, I saw that happen toward the end and just did not get a lot of control out of that car there from the start. But you can already see that the plus 20 seconds was actually added there to Gregoire. So, oh boy.
I can tell you, this McLaren 720S, it has 710 brake horsepower, and it's giving you 568 foot-pounds of torque. It's not the easiest thing to get off the line. All that power and just a little bit of rubber to put it onto the asphalt.
That's a heavy one too, right? I mean,
it's not the lightest.
No, it is certainly going to be dragging, especially in the back there. But all right, so here we go, as we're going to be on board with Miguel. Miguel going to be in the second position. Igor up ahead. Igor needs to close this one out in first place. Christian in third. Miguel is going to be standing in his way. And for Miguel, he's looking really good here. All he needs to do is just finish out in this top three, and he will firmly plant his place in the finals for the Shadow Project by McLaren.
You make it sound so easy. You make it sound so easy for him.
I mean, his competition in the Forza Motorsport 7 group is in now in 8th place. He is in 8th place, Ali. This is the reverse of what needed to happen. The reverse.
Right, exactly. You gotta like his chances, right? Miguel Balestra. I don't want to put any kind of curse on him. I don't want to jinx him. He's had his jinx already, I think, in the Forza Motorsport 7 race. But now hopefully he can get a nice result, nice calm result, and just bring this home, lock in his position for that massive competition in January that we're heading towards. And Igor and Christian, a little bit of a gap appearing between those two. I think 3 seconds total between those two drivers.
And let's actually talk about this track, right? Monza in Milan, this is an interesting one because it has two very sharp turns at the start there, right? You got your first and your second turn, it hits you really hard in the beginning, and then you go into kind of like your fourth, fifth that you have to slow down. There's no real opportunity for you to really pick up a lot of speed and try and roar through the track.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's one of those tracks where you sort of a classic older circuit. Track re-entry there from Lassie, really collecting. Was that Numa there? So the driver who really needs to be moving forward, getting a big old bump and back into 8th. Monza, though, it's a track which, very old school in a lot of ways, a lot of long straights, long curving corners, and then in the way that a lot of old school tracks sort of are converted into modern racing circuits, a few chicanes are added in there to stop the cars reaching ridiculous speeds.
Yeah, although I do like the speed. I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. Let the engine breathe, man.
You know what? I completely agree with you on a game like Project Cars, and on Project Cars you can race the old version of Monza without the chicanes. At the same time, I've had a chat with a few different people at Le Mans who've raced at all different times, and when they talk about racing these old school cars down the Mulsanne straight without any chicanes on it and reaching nigh on 250 miles an hour in those things, I get butt clenched, I'm not going to lie.
Butt clenched.
But
okay,
yeah.
We've gone through everything today.
Is that the last one on the list?
I don't know.
That now everything?
We got a little bit more time here, guys, so maybe we're going to get a bit more action, but I do want to comment on Numa hitting the butt there of Lasse. Maybe that was a little revenge for what had happened earlier in this race. But here's Miguel in second, going slow through the turns there, but Igor still going to be ahead thus far, and a very, very good start here for the Brazilian.
I love the sound of this McLaren. It's got the 4-liter twin turbo in it. It's a V8 mid-mounted, all that weight on the rear of the rear tires. Fantastic sounding car. I love just listening to it. It is awesome.
But you also need to be wary, right? Rear-wheel drive, you know, you hit a turn a little too aggressively and you're going to spin out, right? Like, you know, because you're pushing the car, you're not pulling the car. If it was like forward or all-wheel drive, you're really just trying to get. And with the way that this car is and how heavy it is, things can get a little dicey.
You're so right, and you can hear them on the throttle application. They're so gentle with it. That's because those rear wheels want to spin up. The car wants to flick around in a lot of ways. You have to just wait and wait and wait with this car before you can get the power down. It's all that patience driving it. Somebody's doing a fantastic job of that right now. Is Cho trying to get through. It's a big old battle.
Yeah, Cho's going to be going up against Henrik here, and things have definitely gotten a turn for the worse as Cho's going to be up ahead and Henrik right behind. Henrik taking his time here, but Cho was getting a little worrisome. He was kind of moving that wheel aggressively, and that was actually... I'm sorry, that's Gregoire. I apologize. I thought that was Henrik. No, that is Gregoire. Henrik is going to be further down, or further up, I should say.
At this point in the competition, though, at this point, Cho overtaking Gregoire just doesn't help either of them. Both of these drivers already mathematically ruled out of the competition and racing in different leagues as well. I guess they're out there just throwing it down and having some fun.
Hey, man. Project Cars 2, you want to have a good time? You got a sick setup here at the McLaren Technology Group,
That's right.
You got a cool stage. Just have some fun. One player that's definitely not looking to have some fun, he's looking to win, is Miguel. And Miguel is so far behind Igor, who is just controlling this one. I think, what is that going to be? Wow. 4 seconds behind Igor?
Just 4 laps in, and Igor is checking out. Fraga looking like he's just the perfect combination of talents to get through to the finals here. Christian Kvitnewski gave an amazing...
Oh, no! Christian! Oh, man, he goes up against the wall there. He's going to be able to get back on, and he's having a hard time with this steering wheel, and you can see the frustration in his face.
Super tough there for Christian Kvitnewski. In a way, it's interesting to see him coming up to pieces now, right? Starting to see the mistakes come out, because he's going to have to push beyond his own abilities. He has to push just like crazy to reach Igor Fraga, who he has to overtake to get to the January finals.
And so far, it has not been looking very good for Christian. His rival, Igor, has owned Monza, and Cho is going to spin out. That's going to give Gregoire the advantage to go into 5th. And who knows, Lasse could be right behind him as well. Actually, Lasse is a little further back, but still, he could gain on him if he's not careful.
Yeah, another 12 seconds there between Lasse and Cho, but it doesn't hurt Lasse's chances of getting up into 6th, that's for sure. It's a shame to see Cho leaving the competition. He's somebody who looked so promising at points throughout the day. Just those moments of brilliance, and he's such an inspiring driver to watch on track.
Yep.
The car's always on its limit, always pushing it around. But yeah, someone who probably we won't see in the next stage of this competition.
I would definitely say Cho has given us a lot to talk about. Going into the Shadow Project, he was a relative unknown. We did not know what to expect out of him. Had a conversation with this guy from Hokkaido, and he has a familiarity in the sim racing, but he's in the toughest group, the Logitech G group, where you have Igor and Christian that are constantly battling for that first, second place position, or even third place. And Cho is right there with them numerous times. How many times have we looked at races and Cho's been in fourth, or he's been contending for fourth, contending for third? It's happened so many times. I think really where things started to get worrisome for Cho was when we went to Real Racing 3, and he was not able to put together a time, was not able to get any points, right? Even when you talk about rFactor 2. Oh, Christian. Ooh. Oh, man.
Again, and that's going to be a big old accident. He saw it coming from a mile away, but sadly there was nothing he could do to save the car.
I wonder what's going on here with his car here, the 720S not really being all that friendly to Christian.
He's pushing it too hard. He needs to beat Igor Fraga. There's nothing else for him in this competition. This will be his final race, unless he crosses the line ahead of Fraga, and he's pushing a little bit too hard.
And a clash now between the best of Japan and the best of France. This one has continued on. Cho versus Gregoire. Henrik, by the way, in fourth place, who has been clinical. You like that? Throughout.
Because he's a doctor.
The McLaren Shadow Project. You like that? I'm just throwing them all out there.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
Before I get fired. You know, that's it. That's it. Before McLaren's like, all right, get him out of here.
Yeah,
too many puns.
We've had enough.
He's pun hungry. He's pungry.
Pungry. He's pungry. That's awesome.
Oh, and Henrik, he's going to be pushing his car. You hear the tires squeaking just a little bit, right? That is not a sound you want to hear, and Gregoire's going to overtake Cho.
Gregoire pushing Cho around there.
Oh, we're getting
Once
a little
on the track, and Cho won't give it to him. That's a big old jump between the two of them as they head up towards Curva Grande. Cho's come out worse. That's a great shame for him.
That is the thing that the adjudication staff is looking at, and they're just like, give me more of that. I just want to penalize people as much as possible.
That's exactly what it's like.
If you're an official in the back, you're looking at this, and you're like, time to get to work.
That's right. I got this. I got this.
Crunch the numbers, boys. We got a storyline to pull. Henrik in fourth, and right in front of him will be Christian, who has been having a bit of a rough time here. And I was told, and this also comes with much sadness on my end, is that our adjudication staff here will not be handling that process.
No.
Project Cars 2 is it's replacing the job of real people. Okay.
First you take away Cho from the competition, Alex.
And then you take away my salty adjudication.
That's right. What's left for me here?
Is this Amazon? Are we just automating everything now? Are the drones starting to fly in? What is this? So yes, Project Cars 2 does self-adjudicate. But I would imagine
we were on board with him for a second. To tangent, beautifully there.
Go
Not
into
really
it.
a segue, but Miguel, he looks so concentrated. That picture-in-picture, looking at his face there, is somebody with something to prove out here today. And that's because the last race went so badly wrong for him. He felt robbed. He felt like he should have taken a little bit more points-wise from the Spa-Francorchamps event. And now he's out here in Monza with something to prove, and he's proving it brilliantly. Second place, nice run.
And this makes me very excited for the final, though. As it currently stands right now, if it ends here, it will be Igor, Miguel, and Henrik in the final. And look at where they're currently placed. Igor first, Miguel second, Henrik fourth. Christian, yes, is right in between them. But that means that if this ends the way that it will, we're in for one heck of a final for the McLaren Shadow Project.
Unbelievable, isn't it? The quality of talent here, and we're looking at the top few drivers from the 8 that we have here at the McLaren Technical Center today. But when we move on to the final, these guys, we've had it out with a few more guys, there'll be a few more drivers out there qualifying straight into the event, and their talent is such that these guys might not be at the top anymore. There might be new stories, new people out there able to take this home.
Yeah, there's just really a lot to take away from this one, but I am really digging the level of competition that has been presented to us here today. It has been fun to watch, a little stressful, without a doubt, at times, but fun to watch overall, and I think you see that stress on Henrik's face. but he has been lights out. He really has. Owning the Real Racing 3 division.
Brilliant, brilliant racing from Henrik. We're watching Igor Fraga though right now, the guy who has just dominated. Well, it's hard to say dominated, to be honest. But the Logitech, he's had moments where he's looked shaky. He's had moments where it looked like Christian could have beaten him. But now we're in the final race, and it really looks like when it counted, when it mattered, he's had it where he needed it.
But this is what we had predicted earlier. We talked about Igor and his ability. We said this is going to be the guy to watch. This will be the guy to beat. And it has been a bumpy road for Igor, but Project Cars 2 is a perfect representation of the talent that he possesses and what we know he is capable of in the Shadow Project. First place, and he has not looked back. No one has challenged him.
And keep in mind his real-world racing experiences. Well, as he loses the car, what a save! What a save from Fraga, who initiates into the Parabolica and manages to pull it off there just about. This guy has won the 2017 Brazilian Formula 3 Championship. That's a real-world event. He's out there this year in the US F2000 Championship. He's a hugely experienced single-seater driver, somebody who knows his way to navigate some rubber on some asphalt. He's showing it today in this McLaren Shadow Project.
Whether it's the real-world track or the digital track, you can count on Igor to be a star. Miguel, though, from Spain, has been a star as well. There has been, like Igor, it has not been easy for anyone here. It has not been easy. No one has just sailed on through. I mean, I think the only person that you could possibly say has had a good run here and hasn't had a lot of challenges has been Henrik. But Henrik hasn't been winning. He's just been beating his other opponents in his group. So this is, if you're Henrik, you're looking at it and saying, yes, I did well. Yes, I was able to take out Lasse and Gregoire. But I need to do so much more if I want to be a part of the McLaren esports team.
It's all about that process of pushing yourself, that process of finding more speed than you ever thought that you had. You speak to a lot of these drivers and they'll say things like, you know, I can't see the next 10th of a second chipping away at a lap time until I have another one. So if you're looking for a 44.5, you can't get there until you've got a 44.6. And you can't get to a 44.6 until you've got a 44.7. And it's all about just putting in the lap times, chipping away at it, and just practice, practice, practice. And it's paying dividends for Igor here, for Miguel, and of course for Henrik.
And I wonder what the training is going to be like post semifinals. This has been a unique experience where you're given this Logitech steering wheel, you're put into these sleds, you're playing on these Alienware monitors, and you have to find a way to replicate this setup at home to prepare for what's to come in the finals. Because when you're there, and I believe that there will be some people in the audience watching as well, we're in a studio environment here, but when we get to the finals, there's going to be people watching, there's going to be a lot of judgment, there's going to be you and I yelling over everything. It becomes a different animal altogether.
It does, and it's completely different. I want to add as well that when we come to the final, there'll also be physical tests. There'll be reaction tests and all sorts of other clever stuff that McLaren dream up to find out how to separate these drivers from each other, how to tell who's the complete athlete, who's the complete driver out there on track. There's a huge amount of different factors that weigh into this.
For now, it's not just the 5 games.
It's not just 5 games.
Yeah, it's not just the 5 games, but the race is coming to a conclusion. Igor is gone, and he is going to end this one with flying colors. Miguel was behind him the whole time, as was Christian. Christian, despite spinning out a few times, still managed to hold on to 3rd. Henrik in 4th place. But with the game self-adjudicating, we're going to find out all the results immediately coming out of this one. But yes, this was the race that Igor needed. And again, he's hitting that one, man. That's a little bit of that.
That was for the crowd.
Oh my God, that little Project Gotham there, right? You don't want to get those kudos around the corner. But ding, 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 ding. And there it is. He throws down the number 1. Igor is going to get the win here. It has been very difficult. Miguel right behind him. There is no engine stalling out this time, baby. You're moving on to to the finals. He knows it. He knows it. And then right behind him is going to be Henrik. Christian has to be very frustrated with the results of this.
It proves he's a great driver. He's still one of the top drivers out there. Absolutely fantastic performance from Christian. He can be proud of himself. But Henrik, how great was he?
Really, man. Just a consistent showing. But he's going to have to step it up if he wants to go for the top crown. Oh, wow. What an ending to that one. Project Cars 2, the conclusion of that. Igor is going to come out on top. Miguel right behind him. Christian in third. And then you will have Henrik in fourth place. We're going to get the final standings and where everything fell. But, you know, let's just recap what we saw there, man. I mean, there wasn't much to take away in the middle and end because everything kind of ended or kind of sat in the positions where they were, but it really was the beginning where things got a little dicey.
It definitely did, and for Numa especially, somebody who knew that he needed to come out here and do something absolutely astonishing, something super impressive, got caught up in a scrappy battle with Lasse there in 7th, lots of bumping between the two of them, and just lost all of his chance. Just evaporated in those first couple of laps. Cho as well, scrapping away here with, it looks like with Henrik, but I think his fight really was later on in the race when he met up with Gregoire on track.
I think this is Numa getting revenge there against Lasse, sending him sailing into the grass, going for a cut out there, a little haircut in the green. Cho and Henrik were up against one another, and Cho was already out of it at this point, but a competitor of his stature, certainly not going to be outdone. Unfortunately for him, the car had other plans. He spun out a couple times. Miguel very close a few times to Igor, but Igor was just putting together a master class on Monza, and he was not to be stopped.
You know, a lot of people would look at Igor's drive here, controlling it from pole position, winning the race. It was kind of a boring one for him, right? He didn't get into the battles, but that's exactly what you want as a leading driver. A nice, boring race where you can string the laps together, keep your pace super consistent, and bring home that victory. It doesn't take nothing to do it either. It takes an amazing amount of preparation and just some incredible consistency, something Kwiatkowski struggled with.
And yeah, Christian was hitting the pedal heavy there a couple times, a lot of frustration. Regains it, but still, that was essentially the end of his run here. He was never really able to recover from that one. Still, though, in third place, just not enough to get back into the action.
It was that epic battle, Gregoire up against Cho. Those two scrapped it out in a great way. Ended a bit scrappily, perhaps, but those two just having some awesome fun there, I think, out on track. Neither of them able to move forward afterwards, but certainly having a good time.
And a couple times, Henrik struggled to maintain control of the 720S, but there was no one ever to contend him in that 5th spot to knock him down to 5th. And that was Cho that was sitting there, so Henrik was able to stay going in this race. Cho lost himself a few times there as well. But boy, this has been just a very, very fun race, to say the least.
Super fun, especially in that mid-pack. Very, lots and lots of door-to-door banging and rubbing. A good way to end off the competition. Miguel looked so composed throughout the race. Looked like he was out there with something to prove, perhaps. And as the race wrapped up, Fraga started to throw a little bit of drifting, I think, into the Parabolica, which I like to see at least.
I know, I said it once, I'll say it again. A little bit of a kudos, right? For,
that's it.
For the Project Gotham fans out there, you know. Hey, maybe we should bust that one out.
Yeah, that's right. Have a little bit of a kudos collecting round here at McLaren Shadow. And as the race wrapped up, this was Igor Fraga, taking the win at the final race, really securing his place in the January finals. Miguel Ballesta, absolutely the same. A sigh of relief. You're absolutely right, it was.
And then Henrik, right at the end there, is going to be your 3rd finisher in this race. And while it is a little jumpy, allow us to just navigate this one. He is your Real Racing 3 group winner. And there's the final moments from Igor and Miguel. Very happy with how they performed here. But it's time to see that final leaderboard.
Let's check it out. Let's have a look at the final leaderboard.
All right, here we go. Like I said, let's see the final leaderboard. You got it as well. Well, here it is. So Igor is going to get that first place spot. Miguel, Christian, and Henrik, just as you saw before, as we had mentioned, Project Cars 2 does self-adjudicate. So because of that, we were able to get the results really quickly. But let's move on, though, to what really matters, which is the groups, where they sit. Igor, 26 points. Christian, 2 points away from moving on to the final. Henrik, 28 points. He actually ends out with the most points of anyone here. And then finally, it will be Miguel with 22. Numa needed a miracle run. He needed Miguel to fail. It just was not to be. Miguel would come out on top there, representing the Forza Motorsport 7 here in the semifinals.
That's it. Second place was good enough for Miguel. Henrik, absolutely dominant. I think he's going to be a very interesting person to watch in the final that we're coming on to. And Igor, what can we say? Such a dominant racer.
Just think the points kind of fall out very, very curiously, right? Henrik getting first place. I actually think that that is pretty dope. So going through from Real Racing will be Henrik. And then for the Forza Motorsport side will be Miguel. And as we had mentioned before, on the Logitech side will be Igor. Nice stuff.
Absolutely awesome. And it's been an incredible day of racing.
Yeah. So before we speak to the finalists, let's actually take a look at some of the amazing racing action that we've seen here today.
Congratulations, guys. It's good to see everybody smiling. Well, maybe not everybody smiling, but at least these three gentlemen smiling. Congratulations, guys. I mean, Henrik, let's start with you. You finished off with 28 points in your league. Congratulations. How does it feel?
It's just amazing. I can't quite believe it, actually.
Did you think you would be going away from here with a place in the final?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't have that expectation, but it feels great because last year when I was here, I went home in the first round. Now I get to continue.
Okay, so the story continues. Excellent. And Igor, well done. You've provided us with a lot of entertainment today, I must say. That last race was an absolutely stellar performance. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Was quite difficult. We had kind of some luck issue today also. So I think at the end I was able to have some good races. So at the end was just perfect and gave me the position to the final. So I'm very happy with it.
Well done. And over to you, Miguel. Obviously, you were winning in the Forza Motorsport 7 League. Congratulations.
Has ganado en la Liga Forza, ¿no? Has entrado aquí, entonces, ¿cómo te sientes?
We're doing a bit of Spanish translation here.
Felicidades.
Muchas gracias, ¿no? La verdad que estoy muy feliz. Ha sido un torneo bastante complicado, con muchos contratiempos y bueno, mi objetivo solo era pasar a la final y eso me ha hecho pensar con la cabeza muchas veces, el no querer ir a por Igor, el mantener la cabeza en su sitio y nada, una pena lo de Christian, era un rival muy fuerte, pero uno de los dos tenía que...
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to go. My 2 years of Spanish hasn't got me enough to translate that, so over to our translator here.
He said, thank you very much. It was an absolute honour to be here and a privilege. It was most important for me to get through to the final. The fact that I finished third is excellent to get me through there. It's a shame about Christian, bad luck for him. He feels for him, obviously being a companion from Spain, but wishes him luck in the future and just absolutely excited to be in the final.
Well, very sportsmanly of you, Miguel. Thank you very much. Well, guys, we look forward to seeing you all in January. Thank you very much. Massive round of applause. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much to our incredible team here, our lovely casters, Alex and Ali, and of course, our social media expert and YouTuber, Black Panther, and of course, all our wonderful players who took part in today's semi-finals, all of our sponsors, and also all of you guys. Thanks for watching at home. Thanks for, I think, staying up past my bedtime. So we really do appreciate you staying with us. We will be back for the finals of the McLaren Shadow Project on the week of the 14th of January. So do keep up to date with all the latest news. Join us then for more wonderfully exciting and fantastic racing. More gamers to come, and obviously those three guys will be back in the final as well. And we look forward to seeing you then. Take care.